Oh, guess we're on already. Jeez. Wasn't prepared. Thought we had a little more time. I guess I'm just stupid. So, hey, folks, how you doing? Josh Turner, prtpodcast.com, Paranormal Roundtable. Hit me up with your stories, or you can hit me up on Messenger. That's always, you can always reach me through Messenger, too. I'm on Facebook Messenger. I'm on Facebook because of the show. That's it. There's no other reason to be on Facebook. Okay? Everybody's like, I don't do Facebook. I don't do Facebook. I don't either. Not if it wasn't for the show. I don't do Twitter. Hardly at all. I did, and then it got hacked and blah, 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 and whatever by certain people. Here's the thing, guys. We did the giveaways. We missed one person. So I apologize, Michael Valentin, if you're listening out there. We forgot your stuff. We got everybody's, and I think maybe one or two people who didn't give me their information. But we're going to do a giveaway tonight. Right, guys?
Right.
And we're going to be giving away some stuff. And then, of course, we'll drop this episode on the Paranormal Roundtable group on Facebook. And you guys can go and leave a comment. And if your comment is chosen, then you'll win something. Now, the prizes are different. We do a different giveaway on the show live than we do on the comments thing on the comment drop. We typically give away a book. That is your prize. And sometimes we'll throw in other stuff. And when we do this right here, it's usually a specific type of something or other. So, hold on one second. I'm getting a call from my guest. So our guest tonight, we have to get started with our guest early tonight. However long he wants to talk, that's fine. And then when he's done, then I will take over and probably tell a couple stories. But this guest has a lot to say. It was like James Bartley last week. I wanted to get started early because these guests have a lot to say. Yeah, and this guy is too. So tonight we're going to have Ron Morehead on. Just giving you the heads up. That's who our guest is. So we're working through how we're going to do this. So I want to give a shout out to Bryson Fine. It's his birthday. A couple of guys that are listeners of the show, and Adolfo Solis, who's another listener of the show. It's their birthdays, and Jeff Mirror, who's another listener. So those guys, happy birthday to them. I'm going to start giving birthday shouts out to the people who have birthdays on the day of the show. And if you guys are listening, hit me up, and I'll send you something. That being said, I always do giveaways. I love to give stuff away. People think I'm joking. I'm like that. At Christmas time, I give away a lot of.
Yeah, I mean, on the last day of the conference, we could have made like another grip by selling all the stuff that we gave away. But at the end of the last day, to the people who were all still there, we just started giving stuff away.
I mean, we could have made money on that conference. I didn't. We lost about $5 or $6 grand. We knew we were going to lose, and we could have broken even. And a lot of people told me, they were like, you should have just did this, did that. Yeah, we could have, would have, should have, but if you have it, why not? Why not? Why not share?
Even with these giveaways, sometimes, even though we might say oh, you're just going to win a hat or you're just going to win a book, we always almost give something else in the box with that. Mm-hmm. It's never just like a hat or a book or
yeah, we throw other stuff in there. You're gonna get it. You're gonna get what And
and don't forget, I want to thank everybody who donates, and it's appreciated. It's not expected, but we always appreciate everyone who donates.
Definitely.
And also the Patreon. We want to thank everyone in our Patreon who pays for that, and does everything for that, and is always our supporters, and we appreciate you guys just as much.
And remember, a $20 tier is automatically you get swag. At $10 is after 3 months, then you get swag.
And if you haven't,
Tony, hang on. Make sure the switch on your mic is on because they can't hear you well.
Ah,
Wow,
There
my
you
mic
go.
got turned off.
he's over here talking away. He's over here talking away. Like, okay, that's real professional. Way to go, dummy.
Oh, man. Anyway, as I was saying, I'll repeat it, but I just want to appreciate everyone who donates. And then I also said everyone in the Patreon, it means a lot to us that you guys support us as well. And if you haven't gotten something, then just send us a message letting us know, like, hey, I've been here 3 months, haven't gotten my goodie bag yet. And we'll make sure to send it to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
It matters to us.
Yeah. Just hit us up. Let us know. And the information's right there at patreon.com/PRT podcast. That being said, let's get going here because I got a guest who has a lot to say. And then, let's get him on. Let's get the ball rolling here with this. Let's see if I can get this here. Oh, Facebook's not up.
Here,
You got it?
hang on.
He's right there at the top.
Okay.
We'll just call him. It's kind of quiet on my end.
No, they can hear him on their end. If it's quiet on your end, just adjust that knob right there.
This one?
The first one, yeah.
We are again.
Ron, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Yes.
Doing well. That's good. So, ladies and gentlemen that are listening right now, this is Ron Morehead. And typically I like to wait until we get a couple hundred people in the chat, but Ron's got a lot to say, so we're going to get started with him. And if anybody needs to, they can go back and watch the replay on this. So, Ron, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm an old guy now. In 1971, when it started with me, I was 29 years old, and I was involved with a group of hunters and encountered these, we'll call them Bigfoot because I had a Bigfoot, but they were huge somethings, bipedal hominids, I guess, back in the Sierra Mountains of California. And that was 1971, and we started recording their sounds. I'm responsible for the Sierra sounds. A lot of people know about those. And I produced them. We went back several times to this remote camp, about 8 miles in the wilderness and 8,400 feet in elevation, deep in the Sierras. And anyway, it was quite an adventure. It got me on the track of trying to figure out what we're dealing with back there because it's pretty unusual. And we all thought it was just a big ape in the woods like so many people still do. And I got a lot of theories on it because I've been studying now for over 50 years and written a couple books. And anyway, that's how I got started in it. I was friends with these guys that were hunting up there. I wasn't a hunter at the time, but one of the guys got freaked out. He came out and he wouldn't go back, but the wives were worried, so they asked him to go back and check on the guys because they hadn't came out and, like they were supposed to, and asked me to go with him. He didn't go back by himself, so I was afraid of it. And you can understand that when you hear the sounds, they're pretty aggressive, the first ones we started recording.
Mm-hmm.
And we recorded them year after year, where they kept coming back messing with us around this camp. And we thought we were studying them, but I think they were more studying us. Couldn't outfool them, we couldn't trick them, but we underestimated what we're dealing with at the time. Again, we were thinking, like so many people do now, that they're just some kind of a unidentified great ape that shouldn't be up here at all, but they are. And there's so many strange things happening with us up there also, and that's what kind of threw me. Al Berry, who we took in via Ivan Sanderson, who's a cryptozoologist, and he heard about it, and he sent a letter off to Peter Byrne, which is on the West Coast in Oregon. And Peter thought it was probably somebody pulling his leg too, like Ivan Sanderson did, and he sent it on down to Alan Berry, who was working in California at the time as a newspaper reporter. And Al had a master's degree in science, and he came down and interviewed us, and we didn't know at the time that they all thought we were just pulling their leg, but we ended up taking him up there in 1972. He started recording the creatures like we were doing, and but he was a professional. He was still trying to find who could be pulling this off up there in the middle of nowhere, and he fostered the studies that we had on the tapes at the University of Wyoming, a year-long study of Dr. Curlin, electrical engineer, very high-profile guy, top secret clearance and all that stuff. Anyway, he studied them for a year and said there's no manipulation in the sounds, that the sounds are genuine. There's no 60-cycle hum, which would have indicated pre-recording or re-recording. There was no re-recording at different speed, ultra speed, or none of that goes on. The tapes were genuine, he said. And he wrote a article on it, a paper on it, and that was presented to the Anthropology of the Unknown in British Columbia in 1978, I think it was, yeah. And anyway, that was a big step, but it wasn't enough to get academia thinking there's something besides a primate running around out in the woods. So it got me on a track because Al being a scientist, he said, whatever you do, stay with science and don't talk about the strange things that's been going on up here. No one's going to listen to you. So we didn't for a long time, but I do now, and I have for the last few years because it happened, and I think people should know. And I've been interviewing people all over for a long, long time, and a lot of them have these same stories that we have about strangeness and the presence of these Bigfoot creatures. And I did see a UFO up there one time, which was, I didn't usually talk about that either, but now that the government says there are out there, well, I guess we can talk about them. Where it used to be years ago, we couldn't even talk about Bigfoot. I get laughed at, so we just kept it between us, the family and close friends, and until Al Berry and I started going out and talking, getting on podcasts and stuff, or not podcasts, didn't have those then, but just conferences and things. And we became
It's nice
good
that
friends.
they gave us permission now that we can talk about it. That's awesome.
So they know about Bigfoot too. I'm quite sure of that. They just don't know how to handle it. If they can control something, they're gonna either degrade it or make fun of it or ignore it.
Sure.
Because the government has to control everything, and they think they do anyway, and they don't know what to do with these things because they can't control them.
And there's a lot of governments around the world trying to do just that, and they can't. I mean,
well, there's a reason. Yeah, there's a reason people can't find them, and I said they're going to find you if they want to, and everything. I get into quantum physics a little bit because that's where the science has led me. Because there was no classical answer to what was going on with us up there. Sometimes you just get frozen like you're in a state of, I call it a force field in Star Trek or something. And there's other times when we heard, just a lot of crazy things. One time we was inside our little shelter up there, and we thought our camp was being tore apart, all the barrels being ripped away and stuff being slung around. Looked out there when the commotion was over and nothing had changed. Well, that doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. So where do you put that? You put it up on the shelf because you don't know how to deal with it. And things like that happen. And we just ended up, like I say, putting it on a shelf until now I feel comfortable in talking about it because I got into quantum physics, and that pretty much answers a lot of stuff for me. And if you understand what like Tesla said, everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. So at a most minute level, we are energy vibrating at a frequency. And energy, according to Einstein, according to Stephen Hawking, it can't die. It can only change forms. So that's what we are. We're entities in a body, consciousness in a body. And when this body gives up, we change forms into something else. And nobody will want to guess about that. But if you're religious, you think you're going to go to heaven. If you're a physicist, you're just going to change forms. Yeah. So that's the way it is. So that's what got me started, and I kind of looked into a lot of it too, and people reporting how these things disappear and reappear and stuff like that. Well, too many people reporting that stuff, you kind of got to give it a little bit of credence. You got to wonder what's going on. All these people can't be wrong. Something's happening. And when really close people told me they saw that happen, I really started looking into it. And when you think about it, if everything is energy and frequency and vibration, if you can find the frequency of anything, according to Einstein, you can change the matter, because matter and energy is interchangeable. Now, we are matter, right? We are energy and matter. We're both. And if you can change the matter that you are into energy only, you would not be seen. We only see between 430 and 770 terahertz. That's our frequency range of light. And you get outside that, and there's other things going on. According to quantum physics, there's several more dimensions than the three that we live in. And then we just got to understand this stuff better. And it's just the way things work throughout the universe is through quantum physics. It rides on the back of our three-dimensional environment that we live in. And it gets into the other dimensions that you don't see. It's how our cell phones work. Even you don't see how that message happens, but it happens, and that's in the quantum world of micro world. But according to Christopher Bland at West Texas A&M, everything from the atom through the cosmos works under the laws of quantum physics. So there's a lot goes on, and you got several scientists. Even you got Edgar Mitchell. He said that it takes classical and quantum sciences together to have clear perception. Well, there's where I am with it. We have to live in a three-dimensional environment. That's why we're stuck here in these chairs and stuff. but there's more going on that we just don't see. We don't see all frequencies. We don't hear all frequencies. You got dogs that can hear in ultrasound, and you got elephants and big tigers and giraffes, stuff like that work in infrasound. And we don't hear those sounds. Those frequencies are way outside of our range. You get into the olfactory sense of what animals can do. A dog can smell 7 times better than a human can smell. And you get into a bear, and it's 20 times more than a human can smell. So their olfactory sense is much higher than ours. Animals' hearing, some of them are much higher than ours, different than ours. And eyesight, we don't see everything. We only see within frequencies. And I think when people get their head around that a little bit, they'll understand that all these people aren't crazy that said they saw one disappear. I used to think they were crazy. I had a guy tell me that in a board meeting one time years ago up in Canada. He said, I can take you to a spot where I saw one disappear. And I just kind of, yeah. I didn't say anything. He had a suit and tie on, so I left him alone. But I couldn't believe that at the time. But then that was a long time ago. Now I can see how it can happen because frequency. Well, you ever heard of Paul Dirac?
No.
He was a physicist out of, he come from the UK, but he ended up working down in Florida. And he got the Nobel Prize in 1933 for antimatter. And that's where you can change matter into energy. And he also said, like Einstein said, that matter and energy is interchangeable. Well, that was established physically by CERN in Switzerland in 2012, when the Hadron Collider made that happen. So we got to get that little job off the table there. Matter and energy is interchangeable. Bam. So matter and energy are interchangeable. If these things, Bigfoot I'm going to call them, can change their frequency to get out of our perception, and their matter changes into energy, they wouldn't leave a trackway after that. And you hear all these reports over the years, starting with Fred Beck in 1924, when he said he was following one in his writings, and he said that it would have had to jump 160 feet to get out of the trackway that he was leaving. And he could not find, so he thought they were paranormal all the time. And but I've heard so many other people say the same thing, and I've wondered why we didn't see them more often up there in the Sierra camp. We only seen them a few times and just glimpses. My daughter saw them 3 times, but I'm not sure if it's because they want us to or because I don't know why. But some people see them, some people don't. Some people can see ghosts and some people can't. And I think it's the 4th dimension of time where ghosts are in, and they're waiting there for some reason. I don't know, maybe find another body to get into.
Yeah. What you're talking about, like, because I've had people tell me, let's start with this. I believe that magic, that what a lot of people use is magic and what they do, and there are people who can do it. I mean, I've witnessed a lot of weird stuff. It's just science that we haven't caught up to yet. It's going to eventually catch up to where, like these hyper advanced civilizations, I believe that exist outside of our reality. It's magic to us, but to them, it's just science that they've uncovered. And I was talking about the soul with someone the other day, and I was explaining to her that she was asking about the second death. Well, what the second death is, because she said if energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be transferred, or whatever. It can't be destroyed, and then how is there a second death if the soul is energy? And what I told her is that's the wiping of the consciousness. You can literally, as a soul, have your consciousness wiped, and you become like a blank slate, and you become a neutral energy, and then you can go either way. And that is not for us to decide how or who or what does that. I just know that is basically what that is. And energy being what we are, if you were to look at us under a very, like the most powerful microscope, there's nothing there. Like literally, it's because all we are just vibrations like that have agreed to be. And so the most powerful microscope goes deep enough. There's really nothing there. It's like this is an agreed upon illusion in a way, and people, they can't wrap their mind around it. But it's quantum physics and quantum mechanics. It gets really, really convoluted and deep. And then there's people that obfuscate things on purpose too, to skew things. And I was on Facebook the other day, and of course that's where you find all the real facts right there. So I was on there, and somebody was like giving skewed data. I mean, completely skewed data, saying that 97% of cases are this and that, blah blah blah. And I'm like, according to who? According to 500 people that they interviewed, that they cherry picked to say that this is what it was. And it wasn't about Bigfoot, it was about Dogman. But I was like, this is ridiculous. I could get on there and create an award show and just award. Me and Tony can give ourselves awards and say we're the greatest podcasters in the history of the world. And we're going to be like, award-winning show. According to who? According to a company that we created to give ourselves an award. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And that's kind of what these people do. Yeah, that's what it works. And when you were saying about the different dimensions, if you look at like, and I've said this before, like when it talks in the hadith of the Islamic faith, I'm not Islamic, but there are people that are, and there's interesting facts in all these different holy books, and one of them, it says that they are the jinn, the hidden ones, they are a right angle from us. And on the show one day, my nephew Anthony actually poked a hole with a pen. Wasn't it a pen or something?
Into a piece of paper.
Into a piece of paper, and explained how that worked. Like they were using math from 2,000 years ago or whatever, even before the coming of Islam. The Arabs had like the belief in the fire spirits. A really good book I encourage people to read is Legends of the Fire Spirits. But anyway, that book, and it talks about how they exist a right angle from us, and they can easily hide from us. These beings, they exist and they move on a different vibrational frequency. We can't see them. Our eyes cannot. And that's why sometimes you catch glimpses of things in the corner of your eye. I had somebody up in Montana who thought that they were seeing shadows for 2 days going in the corner of their eyes, and then him and his daughter had a Bigfoot encounter. And I said, yeah, because you were probably catching glimpses of them moving in and out of our sphere of visual, whatever visual sphere, and then you encountered them, and that's what you were seeing. And he was like, well, it just seemed like they were like shadows, and then they appeared, And I was like, well, that's the same thing with this cloaking. They're moving in and out of our reality. But anyway, go on, Ron.
Well, there you are. We're preaching to each other like the choir, Yeah. Sound like you're on it too. Yeah, it's got me into quantum physics, how everything works, and you get into another quote that Tesla said, what one man calls God, another man calls quantum physics. Well, so I think spirituality and quantum physics is synonymous. And that's not religion, that's just spirituality, which are all spirits. That's our consciousness, it's soul, whatever you want to call it. It goes on, it doesn't die. And does it change forms and come back? I believe in multiple embodiments just because it makes sense to me. And we all have choices, so I think we're going to be able to choose maybe when we give up with this body what we're going to do, because we have to experience our 3D dimension in order to progress. It's all about experiences, and if you learn how to respond to experiences properly, and that's with compassion and not with anger, and don't be a victim, then you will progress and you'll raise your personal vibration frequency, and that's good for you. That makes you better. It makes you healthier, number one, in this environment, and it also enlightens you a little bit to move ahead, because we're all headed for something else all the time. And so I believe in spirituality and I believe in quantum physics because I think they're the same. Mm-hmm. And that's why I wrote the book, Quantum Bigfoot, because on the back of it, it says bringing science and spirituality back together. Because you take Einstein and Tesla, a lot of those Bohr, a lot of those those older physicists were also studied the Veda. They studied the the ancient texts, and they believed in things like we're talking about right now. They didn't have the same terminology that we do, but they did. And that's why Max Planck, who, as you know, as you probably know, he got the Nobel Prize in 1918 for quantum mechanics. So it's basically a fairly young science as far as that goes. But they found out, like we all have wondered, it just classical science just does not answer all the questions that we have. I know when I was a boy, I asked, how far is it to the end of the universe? Everything's measurable, because in classical science, it's based on everything being measurable and predictable, physical and material. And that's not quantum science at all. That's just what we have to live in a 3D environment. So during this life, while we're here, if we can promote love and kindness and compassion to everybody, we will be better. And that's how we progress on into the other dimensions. But we have access to all those dimensions as we live in this third. I think we have to get to the 6 before we can create, and then we're all headed for 9, and that's what I think Tesla's 3, 6, and 9 is all about.
3, 6, and 9. I was going to say, yeah. He said if you can understand those numbers, you understand the nature of reality.
Yeah, the universe.
The universe,
and, yeah. So I'm writing another book right now, and I got that as a chapter. The dimensions of 3, 6, and 9. But I think that's what it's relating to. We have to be in a third dimension to experience things so we can learn. And once you progress out of that, which it's not like a stepping stone where you're going to jump from one to the other. You have to do it through your consciousness, and you can do that now while you're here, just by meditating and getting deeper into things. But we're getting off the subject of Bigfoot in a way, but I got to tell you, these Bigfoot creatures that we dealt with in the Sierras are part human. And I've established that, I think, through my studies and through my inquiries into things. We got Dr. Curlin. Let me go through this just quickly for you. Dr. Curlin, who professor of electrical engineering at the University of Wyoming, who studied them for a year, said there's no manipulation. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. The tapes were real, no 60-second hum, not speed it up, nothing like that. And you got a cryptolinguist that got a hold of him by accident in 2008, and he's retired from the Navy as a cryptolinguist, which was in the Navy as a career to pick up sounds and see if it's a code or see if it's a foreign language or see what it is. And if it is a language, if there's any deception in it, and just find those things out. That's what his job was. And I vetted him very well. He's a 2-time graduate of they call it Defense Language Institute now, but it was a Foreign Language Institute, I think, at the time. Anyway, his name is Scott Nelson, and he determined after studying the sounds, he came out and heard him by accident, came out and interviewed me and Al Berry both and got the context of it. And he studied them and said that these things have a language. Wow, that's a big deal. Language is what you and I are doing right now. Language is supposed to be, according to Dr. Lieberman at Brown University, humans only have that. No other creature on the face of this planet is supposed to have the vocal mechanism to create language like we do, with the hyoid bone connected into the many muscles, into the tongue, and through the nervous system, into the brain. So I can look at you and say something, I can think about anything, and I can say it. Well, no other animal can do that. Well, Bigfoot that we were dealing with in the Sierra Nevada mountains of California has that. But to me, that puts a human component in them. Or if they were here before we were created, which I don't know if you ever got into the Anunnaki and the Sumerian tablets and the cuneiform codes and all that. You get into the cuneiform, and that's the Sumerian first written language in history, as far as they know. And you get into that, and you find that the Anunnaki were sky people, the shiny ones, the powerful ones, and they were called Elohim, E-L-I-H-I-M. Elohim. And in the cuneiform code, that's always plural in the cuneiform tablets. Every time God wasn't mentioned one time in there, but the word Elohim was, and so was other names referring to gods. It's always in the plural. Now that'll throw a curve into everybody right there, because we've always thought that God was one entity out there somewhere. Well, it is a master consciousness out there, but the light beings, these Anunnaki, who came to Earth from the sky, And they, anyway, that's, I'm getting off Bigfoot again, but they were giants. And they were able to do things. They're the one that kicked humanity into gear with all this technology that we have now. So
what Ron is referring to, we've talked about on the show multiple times. What he's referring to, of course, is the Anunnaki. And when he talks about the Elohim, it's in the Sumerian tablets. Basically, the Bible, the Old Testament, I believe, was co-opted from the Sumerian tablets, and they attributed Yahweh. They kind of copied and pasted, really, over the plurality to make it a monotheistic being, which I do believe there is a God, and I believe in Christ. I believe, but I believe that it's not in the way that we are taught from the Old Testament. I think it really muddies the water because most of that work was written in 600 BC. They can trace the Old Testament being written predominantly in that century, which is way, way after the Sumerian tablets were written. And of course, the Hebrews got it from when they were the Israelites. They'd already become the Israelites. It was like a transformation from Hebrew to Israelite to Jewish. They were in captivity to Persia, and Persia had conquered the regions of Mesopotamia, which was Babylon. And they inherited them kind of as slaves. And so eventually Cyrus released them and said, we have no use for them. Just go ahead and leave, whatever. And when they returned to Israel, it was no more. It was Judea in the south, and they returned to Judea, and they wrote the Old Testament. Well, they inserted Hebraic names in place of the Sumerian names, and then they attributed it to one all-powerful God who only loved them. And that's pretty much what they did. And so then Christianity comes along, and they sort of reaffirm it by attaching the Torah to the New Testament. The reason they did, I'm not going to get into all the political intrigue, but it was because of the Code of Deuteronomy. The kings from before Charlemagne and all them after him, and they all were using it as a way of control. That's what religion was used for. It was used for that. And so when you look at that, and I'm not going to get into the Noahide laws and the Code of Deuteronomy and all that, we're not here for that, but that is what they did. And they took Elohim and turned it into God, Yahweh. The book of Job predates the book of Genesis. I've said this before. And of course, it is the Elohim that go and do this deal with Satan. And really and truly, Satan is not Satan, it's Shaitan, which is like a race of beings. And then the Elohim are a race of sky beings. The Shaitan were trapped here on earth. The Elohim came down, basically told the Shaitan, hey, check out this guy. You can't turn him. He will not turn against us, And Shaitan said, yes, we can. So they said, okay, give us a chance and we'll hurt this guy and he'll turn on you. A lot of people will interpret that as one God talking to the devil, which was Satan, which a lot of people say that was Lucifer, but there's nowhere that it says that was Lucifer. And so it just gets like kind of thrown in there that's just assumed that that's what it was. And it's the same guy from the Old Testament, Genesis, the serpent. It's considered to be the devil, but we don't really know if that's the same being, really and truly. There were too many gods doing too many things, and so they just attributed it all to a monotheistic God. And I'm sorry to burst people's bubble religiously, but that is the truth. If you go back and you read, you'll find that that's the truth. That is literally what's happened.
That's very, very good. You've done your homework, Josh. I say that's really good.
Yeah.
And you get into Mesopotamia, that's where Abraham and Sarah was from, southern Mesopotamia.
Sarawati, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they would have been cultured in the culture of Sumerian culture. So that's what brought that whole, probably, we're talking, well, anyway, we're off a Bigfoot here, but it's fun.
It all connects, though. That's the thing, is that's what, the Paranormal Roundtable figured out.
That's what we do. I mean, it's kind of the round table. We go around and I talked about this at my conference. I had a Dogman conference back in August, and I had like 16 different people that showed up, a lot of friends. There were some guys like us, some guys that weren't, guys and gals, and everybody gave their opinions. And I told people, I said, I believe that these Dogman creatures were created by the Anunnaki as guardians of the stargates. That's why they linger spiritually in places of the dead. You get encounters all the time. There's cemeteries and places like that, and I believe that there's a reason for that. And there's people that were absolutely convinced that Bigfoot and Dogman are these flesh and blood creatures. Well, yes and no. We are flesh and blood creatures, so yeah, they're flesh and blood creatures, but they have an ability that we don't. They can move in and out of, like you said, the fourth density or fourth dimension, whatever. And when you were talking about creation being in the sixth density, there is a belief that spiritually, like evil spirits that are born of the evil of the abyss, they are not allowed to go beyond the fifth. They can't create. They can mock.
Right.
Yeah, but they can't create. And we actually have the ability to create because we are of the life and breath, the spark of God, which can create tulpas. And I've done a lot of work on studying tulpas and what they are. I'm really interested in your work, though, about the Sierra Sounds. Like when you're the guy behind the Sierra Sounds, and that is a very, very, very pivotal point in the Bigfoot field that kind of made people stand up and go, hey, what's going on here? Because this is new. This is, and then there were all these people who kept trying to say, well, they're faking that. They're faking these sounds. They're doing, but when you stop and you listen, I don't believe that that's the case. I've always believed that they were real. But did I believe that they were a giant ape that evolved that way? No, I don't believe that. But it is something, and the question, the big $1 million question that everybody's always asking is, how come we can't find one? How come we can't find one? It's because they're too clever. They are not dumb animals running around out there. They literally can hide from us very easily. I mean, it's very easy to do that. I mean,
I think it's very possible they could be going into a cave system too.
Underground, yeah. Agartha, all these different places, yeah.
But they have came out and they have inbred with indigenous people. The Native Americans have a lot of stories like that. And I think that's where a lot of them become different and more human-like, is because they have been inbred or bred too much with humans. However, if you believe in aliens like we do, and you believe they've been coming to this planet like we do, and they have. I've seen evidence of them all over. I've been in Peru and Bolivia and those places like that where you see their remains and you see stuff that's just uncanny. Higher technology had something to do with it. And if they can manipulate the DNA of a primate to make a Bigfoot, and us, basically, I think we're created too in the image of the shining ones, which is the powerful ones, which is the anyway. They are the ultimate 9-dimensional frequency, beings, and they can do just about anything. But there is a premier, I think, a massive oneness up there, a consciousness that we're all part of. And you'll understand that once we pass out of this dimension. That's once we pass out of this embodiment, I should say. It's just a real exciting time to be alive, because I think more and more stuff is happening, more and more things are coming to light, like we're talking about right now. I really appreciate your knowledge. I see you've delved into it. I wish everybody would do just what you were talking about now too, and know this stuff, because it's really important that we wake up to what's really the truth is, because we've been conditioned to believe certain things, and it's just going to stay that way until you uncondition yourself and have an open mind.
Mm-hmm.
And science is just way behind the curve. Classical science is, and they just don't want to get out of their parameters. So they have to live with the parameters that classical science has taught them. That's Newtonian physics of 1687.
Well, I mean, I was going to mention that the gentleman who said, like, hey, you should wash your hands so that you don't get sick anymore, he was put in a mental hospital because they thought he was insane.
Yeah.
Like, something that we consider common sense now, they're like, hey, that's...
They thought he had a condition.
Yeah, they thought, like, what are you talking about? You're seeing things on your hands and you think that's going to fix everything? And it turned out he was right.
Hostile toward the idea of germs, which we know now cause sickness. They were just like, everyone knows it's caused by, demons, And it's like, okay, well, demons can do that. I mean, yeah, but that's not, in fact, that, on The Exorcist, they show what's his name? Pazuzu. What's his name? I think it's Pazuzu.
Oh,
yeah, he's actually a Mesopotamian deity of sickness.
Mm-hmm.
He's evil. He's a bad guy that causes plague and sickness and death. And they actually used him as the one to go into Linda Blair's character, whatever. Now, that being said, I mean, but germs would be the way to facilitate that. What if these demons that created were just ancient scientists that knew how to cause plague? I mean, it is their understanding of the worlds, and I say worlds because there's more than one world, is way beyond what we could fathom. So to us, they are gods. When they have 12 strands of DNA and we have 2 or 3, I mean, come on, there's a big gap there. I mean, obviously, and I was asked, at the conference too, why would they make us so diminutive if they were so large? And I'm like, think about it. If you wanted to create a subservient slave race, why would you create them any bigger than a Smurf? You would want to be able to just punt them across a room if they got out of line. You wouldn't make some massive giant like you that could overthrow you and kill you. It's just common sense, And we were, I believe, created to be subservient slave race. This last time around, I think it's happened many, many times. The world is millions of years old, and the ignorance just is rife. The world is only 5,000 years old. Really? I mean, gosh, dang, pull your head out of your butt, dude. I mean, like there was a guy, it was a friend of mine, Barry Littleton, who put a picture of an ant encased in amber of a mantis. And of course, that's not going to go over well because it's 300 million years old, and there's all these people. It's impossible, because someone else had posted an ant in amber from 180 million years ago, and they were just like saying how ridiculous that this is. And I'm like, that's not ridiculous. What's ridiculous is to think that we haven't been around that long, because I believe this last time around goes back about 12,000 years to the flood. But I believe that before that there was a massive amount. Innumerable civilizations that have come and went, and a lot of it is underground. And the civilizations underground are a lot bigger and more massive than what we have up here. And people, I mean, you can believe me or not, but it's the truth, and when you speak the truth, people are going to not like it. And that's just the bottom line.
Looks like the underground city in Turkey. I wonder what that looks like now after the earthquake.
Oh, man. Yeah. Thousands of people have died in that particular earthquake. I mean, it was horrible. We need prayers for the people that died. What you said, though, about there being an overall massive consciousness, that to me is what Jesus was talking about when he returned. I believe he left. And when he came back to Jerusalem, he confronted the Pharisees in the temple, and he says, your father is not my father. He's like, my father is the one all true mighty God, and you serve Shaitan. You're of the synagogue of Shaitan. He's confronting the Pharisees, and he's telling them that they are wrong. And he's upending the traditional model of what they wanted things to be. And I believe that at one time they were in contact with something that they called Yahweh. And Yahweh, whether he's God or whatever, a lot of people are going to just knee-jerk say, yeah, that's God because the Old Testament Bible says so. Well, that's fine. But, Yahweh actually himself, if you do the translations, he talks to Abraham and Sarawati, and he says, do you serve me, or will you serve the powerful ones from across the Euphrates, from where you're from? He asks them that. Now, who are these powerful ones that he's referring to? And these are the actual translations of the Old Testament. And he asks Abraham this. This story is in multiple religions, multiple ancient texts. And Abraham says, I will serve you. For me and my house, we shall serve Yahweh. Now, he is in the land of Yahweh and those who served Yahweh. So, of course, it's like these different gods had kind of I'm not saying this is the truth, but, there's just different lands and regions that have been kind of partitioned off by these different powerful ones from the sky. And sure. Yahweh was one of the most powerful, and he held sway over the Levant. Now, if you go, I'm going to get into what the Levant is. Just go look it up. It's the region of Israel, Syria, Lebanon, all these different places. And so you just go and you look it up, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And look up those. Don't take my word for it. Go and look it up. But Ron, you were on the level of talking about how you started off looking for lack of a better term, this giant North American ape. I assume you were probably looking for what a lot of people were, Gigantopithecus, Blackie. And then you...
Well, I didn't even know
Kinda
about the Gigantopithecus at that time. I just
Yeah.
knew it was some kind of a monster up there these guys were telling me about. And,
You're looking for a monster. Yeah.
and yeah, they're big. And it's just, yeah, we were looking for the ape and didn't think anything paranormal about it other than the strangeness that was going on, but we like I say, you just got to put that on the shelf because whatever's out there is something physical. It's making noises, it's leaving tracks, it's doing their family unit. And I only got to see him one time, and after all those years I've been going up there. But other strange things I saw. I don't know if you've seen David Paulides' Missing 401 The Hunted, but I got about 15 minutes of that. He went up there. I went up there with him and took him and his videographer up there to look at it, see it. And they wanted to. I've known David for years, and he's trustworthy, so I let him go to the camp. Anyway, they reproduced something I saw 2 years earlier, which was just a rod of light going across through the trees there. And I want to see one of the anomalies that they did a really good reproduction of what we saw. And it's intelligence, the light anomaly, whatever it was. It wasn't like an orb. It wasn't round. It was a cylinder type light that just went floating by our tent. What do you do with that? You're up in the middle of nowhere. All I had was a little 38 pea shooter with a buckshot in it, so I could get a grouse or sting a bear's butt if you got in my food or something. But not that you'd want to shoot them, but I don't think a gun is going to do anything. But you don't know what the intent is. You just still don't know. It's still a mystery, and it's a lot of fun searching for it. I don't know what everybody's going to do when they find out what's happening. It's going to throw a lot of people out of job, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, all this stuff and looking into the background of it, where things really happen. I think some of these Bigfoot creatures have been here longer than humans have, Homo sapiens.
Oh, yes.
And they've either been given the attribute of for looking for a better word, I'll say paranormal, because they can go in and out, I believe, of our third dimension, or at least out of our perception, and something's given them that attribute of frequency. So, but I'm not sure we're able to do that. We have all the abilities. This whole planet's been given to us for dominion, and nobody else has what we have. We're very special, the human race is. And I think if we understand who we are as humans, we're a whole lot better off than if we think we're a victim of circumstances or something, because we're all here to learn and to be better and to learn better and to teach others better and teaching with love and compassion. When you do that, you're following a lot of the master's teachings. And we're a warlike species, unfortunately, and we keep killing people and going to war and stuff like that. And it's just, I really want that to stop, like we all do probably, but we got to save the human race this time, otherwise it's going to get wiped out again. And I totally agree with you when you say there's been other races here before the flood. Yeah, I've seen, yeah, definitely.
And how do you feel like Bigfoot ties into this, Ron? Like you said, you saw one. Like, can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, it was in 1974 when, for the first time ever, they started interacting with us that were outside the shelter. Normally they'd wait till we're inside the shelter before they started making their noises and sounding off and vocalizations and stomping around. But this was me and another guy went on horses and mules and was packing our supplies in. We kept in barrels up there, so when we did walk in, we wouldn't have to take the horses. We'd still have our supplies up there, sleeping bags and some food and stuff like that. But they got to our shelter before we did. And we started off from down from below where we started off the trail, and they knew we were coming from that time on, because about 200 yards, from about a quarter mile up the trail, I should say, I saw this huge track. I was in the lead horse, and I seen this track right in the middle of the trail, perpendicular to the trail. And I thought, well, that's a good sign. That means, something made the track. It didn't just, anyway. We kept going into camp, and we got there, and no sooner started unloading everything, it started getting kind of dusk, and we started hearing the wood cracks, and we learned, Bill and I and my friend, we had learned to just ignore it when it starts happening. And if you ignore them, they'll come around closer and start making you not ignore them. That's what we learned anyway. Don't shine a flashlight; that'll get away too. But Bill kept on doing taking care of the horses and mules, and I started fixing dinner in the stove that we packed in and reassembled earlier. And that's when we started hearing the knocking sounds and the whooping sounds. And I immediately went to my saddlebag, which is usually the first thing I pull off my horse anyway, and laid it over a log rail. And I pulled out my little cassette tape recorder and started recording them. And that recording is a subject of my second CD, which is where I interacted with them. Because they had started making their sounds and yelling out at us. And to me, that sounded like a question. Just the inflection of it was a question of some type, more than once. And so I started mimicking them, still thinking they're just a big animal out there that could talk. But still, at that time, we didn't have a professional or anybody saying that they had speech. You still there?
Yes, I'm right here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I lost the video. Okay. Anyway, that's the time when I recorded the Samurai Cry, they call it. And Matt Moneymaker from the BFRO coined that when you heard him in 1995. He said, "That sounds like a Samurai Cry." And that got popular all of a sudden. It's got an Oriental flavor to it, the whole speech pattern that night from these things. He was up behind us, and it was a big male. We feel like it was anyway from the voice. And there was an adolescent and a female down below by the creek, and they were the ones that were really making the noises. In fact, I recorded the little voice and the big voice coming down, and I'm like, "Don't get too close to these pinheaded humans, I'll shoot at you or something." Well, they knew we were going to shoot at them because they trusted us by then. This was 3 years after we originally encountered them. And that's when the big male ran by through the trees. Couldn't give you any definition on him other than he was big and he was very, very fast. And it's almost like he floated through the trees. It was really inhuman what I saw. No man could run through that forest like that and not trip over something. These things are just very agile. For the size they are, my goodness,
it defies logic.
Yeah, it does. And anyway, that was in 1974. That's the time I got a glimpse. Also, Bill got a glimpse the same night of a different one. And so in and out of all that, everybody's had little glimpses also now and then. My daughter, like I say, saw them 3 different times. And she's got some stories to tell too. But anyway, I can't give you any definition other than it was upright running. And bears can be upright and they can trot, but they don't run very well like this thing did. This thing was running really fast. And so that's my story. And I write about that in my first book, Voices in the Wilderness.
Yeah, sure. And I'm definitely interested in getting some of your books signed, folks. I'm trying to get Ron to send us some so I can send some out on the giveaways, because Ron's books would be a treasure trove of information in addition to our already large library of different authors. Let me ask you a question, Ron. When you were out there doing this, was at any point in time, did you become I guess the question would be, the better question would be, at what point did you become cognizant that this isn't a monster like I thought it was. It's way more cunning. It's way more intelligent. And how dangerous is this thing? And I mean, like with these questions, like what was going on with you? Did you decide, hey, at some point I should just back off from this, or did you think that full steam ahead? I mean, what was going on? What were your thoughts in your mind?
Well, we knew they hadn't carried us away. They hadn't eaten us, so we were safe as far as we thought. And of course, we never got to have them come up face to face with us and shake our hands, so we didn't know how safe we were. We still carried high-powered guns, but the thought of shooting them never entered our mind unless they came in the shelter after us or something like that, if they became aggressive. And they didn't seem to be aggressive. They just seemed more curious. And we'd set up camera traps trying to trick them that way, and they'd go around the trap or something would happen. I think we had 3 different cameras knocked off the tree at different times, exposing the film. And it was just regular film in those days, you know, it wasn't what we have now, trail cams. And
Sure.
so anyway, yeah, it was exciting times. It all stopped in 1976. The close-in stuff stopped, I think, because we had to shoot a bear in camp. And he was, well, unusual. Black bears will come at you, but this bear came at us. We had our food left out in the packs that night, and bear smelled it and came in and got in our packs. Well, that was okay, I guess, for so long until we heard the packs rip and tearing our packs, and those packs weren't easy to come by. They had a lot of history to them. So we went out and tried to run him off, and this happened 2 or 3 times, and this was midnight. Prior to that, we heard this Bigfoot yelling at us up on the ridge, or yelling at the bear. I'm not sure which one, because that's what really woke us up. And then the rowdiness of the bear around our stove area was another thing. So we went out there with our guns and ran him off. Well, the 3rd time we went out there, we ran him off again. He went out about 30 feet and just stood up on his hind legs and dropped down on all fours and just started coming right at us. And Bill, my friend, shot him, and I killed him right there at our stove area. So the next day we skinned him out and ate his hindquarters and his back straps.
Oh my
So that was
gosh.
kind of it's kind of a
Eating
gruesome
bear.
thing.
Oh,
Well,
No,
it's not so
I
bad
heard
if you eat.
bears had a lot of parasites, didn't they?
Yeah. I
No,
couldn't eat a
not these
bear.
bears. These are mountain bears. They're not garbage dump bears.
Yeah.
Makes a difference. It was good. I mean, yeah, I grew some more hair on my chest after that.
I can imagine. It's
But anyways, it's a little freaky seeing one of those when you skin them out. You know, they look like a person.
yeah, it is. They're weird looking. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like that part of it, but it's the way it was. So
Do you
anyway,
and like a
close-in
lot of
stuff's-
people are going to say that, you know, Bigfoot, they're like, oh, well, you know, it's a misidentification of a bear. There's no way that could be the case for you, right? I mean, what you saw was not a bear.
Heavens, no. What we saw, or you mean the night I saw one, was not a bear. I guarantee you that. But the night we shot one was a bear. Put it that way. Guarantee both of them. Anyway, it's we got a lot of stories to tell, but it's been a long road. You know, I've been on this thing for over 50 years and been all over the world chasing down some of this stuff. And yeah, I can say this: it's been a pretty wonderful adventure. This life is, again, about experiences, so I've had a bunch of them.
One of my listeners says, does Ron see any reason that these creatures may have come from a certain place, or does he think they have a dark nature? Did he feel a foreboding mood from the Sasquatch?
Well, first of all, I don't think they're all the same, so some could be bad, and some, it depends on what made them and what agenda they
Just like
put in
people
them.
are.
Yeah, because you got the Portlock, Alaska, where I was with the Discovery Channel here in 21. They took me into this abandoned village, which had been abandoned since the 1940s, late 40s, because something, a Bigfoot-like creature, had been killing them.
Killing
Killed
people,
30 people, dismembered them. And it's all a matter of history. It wasn't just a story. It's written in the papers, and they abandoned the village because they just fearful of going out. Well, when they took me in there by helicopter, I got a chance to look around, and we circled the area, and I noticed where they'd been timbering a lot years and years ago. You know, new growth was coming up, and they also was overfishing it, I think, and they were probably abusing the land, and I think they were overriding the bounds of what they should have been doing. And I just about guarantee you, if a 12, 15 foot tall Bigfoot-like monster comes out of the trees and yelling at him for doing that, somebody's going to shoot at it.
Yeah.
That's going to piss it off, and it's probably going to tear its limbs off, tear their limbs. And that's what was happening. They was being dismembered also. It wasn't a bear that was doing it. It was a Bigfoot-like upright creature. So anyway, they were trying to habituate the village because there was a good thing there years ago.
The cannery.
They wanted they want to know my opinion of it, and of them doing that. And I said, well, I gave my opinion. I said, you got to show respect for the property. You got to show respect for this land. And that I don't think was the case in the late 40s and 50s. You know, we just all the stuff going on here. So I told them what I thought, and I don't know if they showed that on the series or not, but it was a 8-part series, and it was a fun trip. They asked me if I'd go back there again if I could get a second season. I said absolutely I would. But then I don't know what they'll do, because I think I told them the best way to do it is go in there without a camera crew. Go in there with just 3 or 4 of them, 3 preferably, and stay there. You can't drive there. You got to go by boat or helicopter, and stay there and see what happens and show respect for the property. And I gave them some tips, and I don't know if they want to do that or not, but it's a little tricky for them because they know the history of it too. Their ancestors are the ones that got mangled there. So there's one that's not that is aggressive, but then what made it aggressive? I've heard other reports too, and you got the Paiutes in Lovelock, Nevada, Lovelock Caves. Have you heard of those? And the Paiute Indians warred with the cannibalistic giants, red-haired giants.
Red-haired giants, yeah.
And that's in Sarah Wedemeco's book. And you got the minaret skull, which was found by Dr. Denton and Bishop when he went into the minarets with the Boy Scout group, and he hauled his donkey in there to haul supplies, and it dug up this huge skull. It's called the minaret skull. And he thought, this is human, but it's huge. He sent it off to UCLA, and that's where you lose track of it. It's gone. Al Berry, well, I went in the minarets. We went in there, started digging around the little meadow where he said he found that, see if we could find the other remains, but we didn't. Had a good time, though. Good fishing there. And anyway, UCLA has taken it away just like they did the Paiute remnants of the giants there in the Lovelock Caves. The Smithsonian, we think, has a lot of them housed, or they've destroyed them one because it disturbs the narrative. The giants can't be here. That would disrupt their narrative. And again, like I said earlier in the program, if the government can't control it, they don't want to acknowledge it. They want to make fun of it so it goes away. It's like the weather balloon of Roswell, you know. That's what they did there. And they'll do that every time. That's the way the government does. That's the way any government does, all the way from the Roman Empire on, and even before that. And you get into Constantine, you know, he's the one that, well, you know what happened in 325 AD. He got the Nicene Creed. Anyway, I'm getting a little off base here.
And they changed the Bible. That's why, yeah.
They changed a lot of things. They only put four Gospels in there, the 4 Gospels.
Matthew,
and that's
Mark,
all they
Luke,
had
and John. Yeah.
Yeah.
When there's 136 of them actually in the Nagamati Desert.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, that's the codices. I mean, when you look at those Gnostics, which I've read about a third of them, and flipped through a bunch of them, and it helps to learn the language. I'm in the process of trying to learn my Hebrew to get it better. I speak okay Arabic, but I'm trying to get and I come to find out that Job is actually an Arabic book. It was first written in Arabic. And a lot of people don't realize, like our Arabic numerals, a lot of things come from that culture, the Semitic cultures of Arabia. And we have this, this kind of belief in the West that we are the be-all, end-all on the cutting edge of science or whatever. And when you start to look at how ancient the actual written history of China is, you're just like blown away. It's like, good grief, dude. I mean, you're talking like 6,000 years of history. You can literally trace it back. And that's not to say that they were the only civilization. It's just that they kept track of their history.
Yeah, written paper was... And
I'm not talking about their government. We're not getting into any sort of political or whatever. I'm talking about the Chinese people themselves. And one of my close friends is actually... He speaks like 6 different dialects of Chinese, and he's trying to give me words on how to speak, and I just figured the more I can learn, the more linguistics I can learn, the more I can read, because I'm trying to learn this language so I can read some of the ancient Chinese texts that are available, because I believe that a lot of our history, like we have amnesia. I mean, we don't know what our history is and where it is and what it is. And there is a literally one thing that all the governments on this earth agree upon is to try to snatch up as many of these giants as they can find when their DNA, because they want their DNA. And every time one of them pops up somewhere, they run up and they grab it. And there's a reason for that. There has to be a reason for that. And I think there's literally a DNA arms race going on, and I'm not even going to get into the whole logistics of that, why I believe that. And then somebody sent me some message recently saying, you need to stop your looking at this and doing that, and I don't know if this is a person just being a quack, because when I was looking into the Dogman and the murders that took place in my home county where I was from the 60s, I got the same messages threatening me, telling me I better stop, I better do this, I better do that. And I'm like, well, why don't you make me? Because I really don't give a crap. I'm like, oh, I'm terrified. Dude, I've been to Africa and almost died. I've, been to terrible places, done all kinds of stuff. More power to you, because even if you were to hurt me or kill me or stop me in some way, I don't say that somebody is, but if they were, there's still thousands of other people that we've reached that are going to continue on, and somebody's going to keep digging and keep going, and it's never going to stop. And these people, they're terrified of that, because whatever it is that we're finding there, it's threatening to overturn this paradigm that they've created, which is literally just a prison for our minds. And we have literally self-imposed it upon ourselves with different types of, like with social media, with religion, with all these different things. We have put ourselves into a box. And it is sad when you see some of the smartest people in academia towing a party line and belying their own, what they know to be true. And then when I start talking to them about it, I feel like I'm Darth Vader. I'm like, search yourself, you know it is true. And I'm the bad guy. And these people are like, no, it's not true, and they turn into Luke and whatever. Then I have to cut off their hand and throw them off of a bridge. No, I'm kidding. But the point is that they get so, fervent against it. It's like I'm trying to lead them down the dark side or something, and I'm not. I'm just trying to lead them into the truth. And these people are they'll kick and scream and fight you every step of the way.
They've been conditioned.
Yeah, and it's so hard to break that conditioning, and it's like I said, some of the smartest people I've ever talked to, and they have pigeonholed and put themselves into these boxes, and they're just unwilling to leave it because they're terrified of how they're going to be looked at by their peers and by academia, which is so ridiculous and incomplete. We know 3 dimensions, and we can't even fathom what the other ones are. The scientist Michio Kaku, he's a really good. The Japanese scientist, he gets really in depth of the different dimensions and what it is. And when you look at parallel worlds, each parallel world is going to have different dimensions. And then that takes you into Pond theory and all these other things. I don't believe that our world and our science or any of it is as rigid as they think it is, because somebody just said the Mandela effect. If that was the case, we wouldn't have the Mandela effect and it wouldn't affect people. Now, God throws you a caveat when he says, hey, he says, if it were possible in Revelations, when John wrote the book of Revelations, he says that if it were possible, even the elect would be fooled. What he's saying is basically that you, as the elect, you can't be fooled. But it's going to be so strong and so powerful, the lies, that if it were possible, you would be fooled as the elect. But you who believe and understand and reckon these things, you will not be fooled, because it's basically saying that you are the elect. But you got to understand something. If these people have no spiritual grounding, they're not ever going to understand it. They're not going to believe it. It's like teaching algebra to a frog. They can't. The frog has no comprehension at all of what that is. It's like driving by an anthill on the highway. These ants in that little kingdom, they don't even know that there is a highway, much less contemplate what's going on top. They just know that they live in this little world right there. And these people, they seem to be very content to just be there and not have any kind of thoughts on where we are in the cosmos. The Mandela effect, I don't know if you've looked into this, Ron. You got to check this out, though. I mean, when I was growing up, I was very into astronomy, and I remember that we were in the arm of Sagittarius. That's our place in the cosmos, in the galaxy. Now we're in Orion's spur, and I'm like, how is this even possible? And I corresponded with an astrophysicist who his main study was not astronomy. It was kind of like his sideline, I guess you want to say. It was not his main, but he had a degree, and he was talking to me about it. And when I spoke to him, it woke him up. And then we corresponded for a year and a half, and then all of a sudden he just went dark, and his social media went out, and I never heard from him again. And it was very unsettling to me. And then I started getting these weird messages telling me that I needed to go away and stop and all this other crap. Not from that account, but I just thought the closer you get to the truth, I guess these people think that that if they saber rattle or make goofy threats, you're going to go, okay, well, I'm just going to go do that because I really don't give a crap. It's like I'm going to keep doing what I'm going to do. And, if somebody was really after me, they'd come knock on my damn door, and they haven't. So I'm not really worried about it. But there are people who absolutely do not like what we talk about. They don't like it at all.
I tried to give my program, the Bigfoot stuff to a church one time. I was raised religiously. I know those people, and I thought, they need to know this because they're all living in a box here. But I didn't get into quantum physics stuff, but I got into the Bigfoot stuff and showed them a track that we'd cast and told them a story. And they're all out there just crossing their arms, and I couldn't get through to them. They just couldn't believe it. No, that's Nephilim. No. They're not here anymore. But it's just amazing how people have got closed minds, and it's like a parachute that doesn't open.
Yeah, and they're not gonna find the truth. They're not gonna, I tell people the kingdom
don't
is
look for it.
gone. No, not at all. Because
if people don't ask me a question, I don't think they're ready for an answer.
Yeah.
And so I wait until they open the door before I don't try to push anything on anybody because until I know where they're at, and I still don't push them. I just tell them what I think, and a lot of times it'll make sense to them, and maybe it'll turn their heads a little bit. But I think that's what we got to do. You guys are right on top of it here, and I appreciate the way you're talking. It's a refreshing interview. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we don't do interviews as much as we do discussions. Me and Tony talk about that, and Anthony here. We work together as a team. What we typically do is we get people's stories, retell them, and then we'll have guests that'll come on and tell their stories. And your story was awesome, and it's good to have you on. Do you need to run, Ron?
Well, it's getting pretty late for my eyes are burning. Other than that, I'm okay. Well, it's later here than what it is there. And
yeah. So I'll let you run, but tell us where we can find you. Tell us the names of your books and how we can reach you and read your work, because my listeners are thirsty for the knowledge. What do you got, Ron?
Well, I have a website. It's ronmorehead10.com. It's ronmorehead.com. Okay. And my books are there. One's Voices in Wilderness, and that's my chronicle of doing this for so many years. And it gets into the sounds, and when you get to the context of sound, you can download the sound and hear it. And that's the unique part of that book. And then the other one, which I wrote a few years later, is called The Confronting Bigfoot. It gets into the answers to the anomalies that we ran into up there, and what how it relates to spirituality and how it relates to the enigmas that people are reporting. And that's why I call it the Quantum Bigfoot, because it gets into quantum theory. And I got 2 CDs, which I produced first. I produced the one with Alan Berry, who wrote the story. He's passed away now, but I produced it. It's Bigfoot Recordings Volume 1, and it's narrated by Jonathan Frakes of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and it's about 40 minutes long, and it's got integrated sounds in it too. And then the other CD is one I narrate, and it's about the same length of time, and I got I think 20 some odd. I forgot how many sound bites I got in that, but anyway, I tell my story orally, and you can hear those things where you're driving along if you got a CD player, and or all this stuff is downloadable too. And you can just download it and burn it or whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And that's ronmorehead.com.
That's awesome. We just put the link up there on the show. Folks, go check him out. Buy his books. Read. Learn. Let's do this. So,
well, I got another book. I got another book coming out pretty soon. I say pretty soon. It's a long process writing these books, because at least the quantum book was a long process, because you got to do so much homework. Make sure you're not saying something wrong. And I'm doing the same thing now, just a little bit beyond this other one.
I'm in the process of writing 2 books. Started writing one, and I ended up doing 2, and they're coming along. I'm about 2/3 of the way through both of them. It is a long and tedious process, and I have to admit to my fans and listeners and everybody, and even Ron here. And I was arrogant. I thought, I'm going to get this done in a few months.
Yeah.
It's not the case.
I remember like you had it planned out. You're like, oh, I'm gonna have this one ready, and then this one ready, and then this one ready. Just pop.
No. It is.
It's tedious.
Especially when you're running a business. I have an excuse. I run a huge company, but besides that, I was like, and I do all these other things, and I was coaching, at the time. One of my students, a boxing, and he was like, "Hey, how's your book going?" I'm like, "Let's focus on your combos here. Don't worry about that. We're gonna talk about this. Why are you bugging me about that?" So I'm like, I get in the truck with Anthony. We're leaving, and I'm like, "That book is way behind. I want to talk about it until I get a little further along." But hopefully, my first books will be out eventually because I want it to be good. I don't want to just write some crap. And then people go, man, this guy sucks. His books are terrible. Like, what is this guy talking about?
Well, you also wanted it to be like fresh, and like you didn't want it to be the exact same things that we mentioned on the show every time, and you wanted to make sure you bring something new to it so that it's worth buying.
Exactly. That's the challenging part because I don't want to be redundant with anything. I'd like to have something, and I got some new stuff.
The Quantum Bigfoot is a good book. I can tell you that right now. I'm about 3/4 of the way through that one. I have that one. I will say this, though. You guys, I really want to get the rest of them, Ron. Any spare time I have, I do read my listeners' books, and that is just something I like to do because I'm a bookworm. I've read over 1,000 books in my life, and I read. If you can't read, Mark Twain is one of my favorite quotes. He says, those who don't read have no advantage over those who can't. So, it's just the truth. If you don't read, before you go, one of my listeners said, "What do you think of the Patterson-Gimlin film? Real or fake?" Somebody asked that.
I think it's real. It's real. Yeah, I know Bob Gimlin quite well, and I've been involved with that for a long time. And it can't be faked. I know Jeff Meldrum, professor at Idaho State University. I know him. I speak with him quite often at conventions, but he studied a lot too, and it can't be faked. I mean, it was just, a lot of people say, well, it's faked, but too many studies. I think it's only been studied second to the Kennedy assassination. That little clip is something else. But I also think it's different than the ones we were dealing with. I think it's a diluted form of these creatures. Because its footprints are more human-like than ours. Ours are more splayed, very little arch in them. And I'm not sure that all of them are able to talk. I don't know if they've been given that ability or not. But I'm really heavy on the dilution factor because of the Native American lore. It talks about how they take their women and how they've crossbred with them, which means they'd have to have 23 pairs of chromosomes instead of 24. And there's a lot going on that we haven't talked about, but there's just there's a lot going on these days. It's a good time to be alive.
It is. I'll leave you with this little piece, nugget, Ron. Check out the Denisovian people.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me what you think of that. Yeah, because they've had teeth and a bunch of compressed, fragmented bones. And in the Kabbalah, which is a book of Jewish mysticism, which I've read, and it wasn't to practice spells. I was just curious. I read all these different books, but it talks about them being from an alternate world that was just destroyed. And that these beings, what we know of as demons, these evil spirits, because it says in the book of Enoch that they were killed, the giants were killed, and they were evil spirits for all time, that they would plague humanity till the end of time. And it talks about in that book, the Kabbalah, that they were compressed beings. They were crushed, okay? And all we find are bone fragments that are crushed of the Denisovian, and we know now from their teeth, we found their teeth, that they were huge, giant type people, and then they crossbred with Neanderthals. Something to think about. I'm not saying that is what it is, but just, So Ron.
Well, the unique part about that is I heard they can't identify the nuclear DNA, which is a male counterpart. And that would be significant. Just so that's what Ketchum couldn't. She got off on an alien thing too, which is against classical science. So she got thumbs down on all that, but I think she got a rough ride on all that. She's going to be vindicated
That's
one
a
of
shame.
these days. She should be vindicated.
Yeah. And so appreciate you coming on, Ron. You're a legend. Everybody knows Ron Morehead. Everybody, and I'm sorry that it took me so long to get you on the show, and just I'm a very busy guy, and it was like everybody's been telling me, hey, you got to get him on the show. You got to get him on the show. And finally, I came through and I did it, and so we will be in touch, Ron, and let me know if you're interested in coming to the conference in Fort Worth in September. If whatever your schedule, I don't know what it is, but if you can, I'd love to have you come and speak. That would be amazing.
Send me a note on that, because that's what I do now, is just go to these things and speak. And yeah, where is it at? In Texas?
It's going to be in Fort Worth this year. Yeah, last year was Tennessee. We had about 480 something people, but we're going to have a bigger venue, hopefully more people this year. We had a lot of speakers, and it was an amazing conference. But love to have you come, Ron. I mean, you'd be
well, I appreciate that, Ron. Yeah, send me an email or something with all that information if you would, and I'll tell you what it takes to, and I'll look at my calendar and we'll fork something in. I think I just got 2 conferences in April, one in Florida and then one up here north here somewhere. Then I got another one in Nashville area here in October, I think, but September might be clear for me. I don't know. I got to look and see, but it's fun. That's what I love. I love to do it. Yeah. So
well, everybody that came to our conference in Tennessee last year literally sold out of all their books, except for David Weatherly, because David bought a truckload. And so at the end, we did like a giveaway, and there were nobody's books left. So I had to use David's, but David, luckily, he goes, I brought a lot.
Yeah, Barton was saying he didn't bring enough.
Barton was sold out. Ron Murphy was sold out. Ken and Lyle were sold out. Nick was sold out. I said, dude, everybody sold out quick, too. I mean, it was like pretty halfway through the conference, everybody. So if you do come, bring a bunch of books, because you will.
Well, the thing is, you don't want to bring any books back. That's what they sell. They don't take too many.
It was pretty quick, you know.
They're all thinking the same thing, but they didn't bring enough, apparently.
Yeah, and we took like not even half as much merchandise back. I mean, like what we did when at the end there, we just started giving away, you know, the stuff that was left. But there was a lot of people, you know, that were like, you know, asking how much for this, how much for that, and I didn't have time, because everybody had left to go eat dinner, and I was still sitting there, I hadn't eaten dinner, and the kitchen was closed at that point, and we had a caterer, but I just started saying, here, take it, let's just give it, you know, whatever.
And they stayed there for so long that, you know, we might as well.
Yeah, it was a fun time, but we'd love to have you, Ron. Ron, I'm going to let you go so you can go get some rest, and looking forward to your new book. Keep me posted.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. And it's my honor to be with you guys. I really appreciate your intelligence and your background, and everything you've been saying is right on target as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. And there's no reason why a dogman can't exist. They do exist. If aliens are messing with the genome of different species on this planet to hybridize their species to this atmosphere, that's very, very possible, very likely. And that would also create the dogman. I've also interviewed a guy that swears up and down he saw dogman, and he said that they hunt the Bigfoot. That's what they're for.
I've heard it both ways. They're not necessarily friends. Send them my way. I'd love to interview them. I've interviewed hundreds of people on those. I've gotten some amazing stories from people. So
yeah, well, it's been a long time. I'm not sure I have his. He's afraid he's going to get put in a mental institute because he was about to go nuts over it all, because he's seen their skeletons and everything. And anyway, he actually, well, anyway, that's another story. All right. Well, good night, guys, and thanks again for having me.
Sure, Ron. Thank you for being on.
Okay. You take care.
All right. You too. Bye. So, folks, that was Ron Morehead, guy that I've been, you know, corresponding with for a while, and we were trying to coordinate it, and then I got serious about just trying to make it the calendar match up to where we could get people on. Next week, we're going to have another amazing guest on. Somebody asked me the other day, they said, why has your show only got 20,000 people on YouTube? Well, let me explain something. We had like 80,000 people on 13.
Yeah, we were much bigger. It's just
13 platforms.
Yeah.
And then to this day, which happened yesterday, I got it on here. Somebody messaged me and they said, what did this guy say? And I kind of got aggravated. It's not the guy's fault. He doesn't know. Yeah. But he says, where have you guys been? you're not on Spotify. I'm like, dude, I'm so tired of hearing about Google and
You know what's
Play,
funny? The
Spotify.
last week's episode, the link to last week's episode on that, there's literally one that says you guys aren't on Spotify anymore.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
And I'm so tired of like, you know, trying to explain to people, dude, we are exclusively on YouTube right now because YouTube pays us.
Because this is, you know, the only way that we could do it and still make money
Make
at
money
it to
at
make
it,
it
yeah.
worth it for us.
For us to be off.
Yeah.
It takes $300 a piece for us to be off. I did the math. It's like we're losing big time money to have. So for you two to take off on a Friday, we're losing almost $300 a day. That's a lot of money. It takes $600 a day per show to do this.
Especially for the week.
Because
Friday
is
a big day.
big
Yeah.
night where we everybody works on Friday. I mean, that's our big night. But folks, I'm trying to do everything I can because I'm more interested in trying to put out the content and get the information out there than trying to turn a buck. And people are like, well, you're trying to make money. Blah, 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 blah. And I don't. This isn't my bread and butter, man. I do other things. I steal hubcaps. You know, I crawl in and out of freaking people's garages when I'm huffing paint, doing all this
I
stuff.
panhandle.
You know, we steal cologne at the store.
Anthony
rebrand
robs
it.
old
You know,
ladies.
we do all kinds of
Yeah,
stuff.
we're
dude.
just very
we're
varied.
thugs. We're thugs.
Man's got to eat.
Man, gotta eat. You know, came in here to eat. You know, I'm joking, folks. Okay, only a few of those things are correct.
I go into nursing homes and steal their medication.
We steal their medication. We give them to robots. Look, folks, no, I'm joking. We're completely joking. I'm not being serious about any of that. Look, all right, seriously. People are going to be like, Josh Turner said that he breaks into people's garages to huff paint, blah, blah, blah.
It's just a bunch of criminals over
A
at
bunch of
PRT.
criminals. Let me tell you something. You know, folks, the information is there. It's up to you to do what you want to do with it. Now, we have some time, right? So the first thing I want to do is get you prepared because you got to tell me what you want to do. I got a Bigfoot, a Dogman. I got a ghost. I got a really good ghost story I haven't told yet. I told my wife she's at home by herself with a new puppy. We have a new puppy. She was going to bring it to the studio. Man, this thing is cute, dude.
And
It's a
sweet, just a sweetheart.
little dog, and so we are kind of babysitting this little thing until it gets, and it is looking for death. I'm not joking. I'm on the bed and it's like, and then it goes, woo, off the bed. And I literally I caught it. And I told Neil, I said, man, we should have had those, you know, where the parents catch the kid.
Oh, yeah.
We should have had that because I caught it and I was like, nobody saw this. Amazing catch. I saved this dog's life. But we didn't catch it one day and it jumped off the couch and boom, head first. And it's a little golden doodle and she is just a ball of energy. And I am trying to keep up with her. Okay, but it is so demanding, and it's like raising a child now. I'm raising another kid, you know, which reminds me. Yesterday we were eating dinner, and I'll just talk about this really briefly. But somebody's kid was just going. Ah! I'm talking like Sierra Sounds times 10, and it was just screaming. And I'm like, dude, whose kid is screaming? And then I said something about parents who don't take care of their children, and I said something about we were at the grocery store, me and my brother, and this little kid was one of those little eggs, those Kinder, whatever the egg, the little German eggs, you know, with the little chocolate.
The other one where you get a toy in it.
You get a little toy in them, yeah. And he had a handful of them, and she's like, no, only one. She's over here conceding to the child, which is first of all the problem. Then the kid starts kicking her. And then eventually she spanks it, and then, you know, this one lady behind her goes, you shouldn't be hitting that child like that. And I'm sitting there going like, I don't want to get involved in this. But I was like, why don't you mind your own freaking business, lady? Well, why don't you? And I said, why don't you? And then we went back and forth and blah, 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 you know. And so her Karen-ness came out, and then the other lady, I said, you know, you're disciplining your child, you know, whatever. So I was talking about that, and this guy sitting next to us while we're eating dinner at a restaurant, he goes, do you have kids? Like, he kept staring at me, you know, and I tried not to make eye contact with him. I don't want to talk to this guy. He's wearing a Phillies hat. Who talks to somebody in a Phillies hat? And I look at him and I said, yeah, I do, dude. I've raised like 5 kids, dude. And they weren't even mine, but I raised them. So why? What are you going to say something about me because I asked whose kid was screaming and it's my effing kid. I'm like, well, get your kid under control. You know, the problem with our society is that people let their children just run amok and throw things and kick their parents and do whatever the heck they do. That's not how you raise your child. You do raise your child however you want. But I did not let mine go crazy, and they had curfews and they had rules. And, you know, Tony, you lived under my roof since you were a teenager. Anthony, same thing. Zane, same thing. You know, and I've had to just sit there and tell you, don't do this, don't do that, and it's not fun, but you don't act a fool. You didn't go out and get strung out on drugs and do all kinds of crap and go to jail like a lot of your peers did. And that's, I'd like to believe that I was a decent parent and I did what I had to do. Well, this guy, like he wanted to fight or something, you know, and I kept my cool, but I just told him, you know, I said something I probably shouldn't have said. I said, F your hat, whatever. I got mad. I got upset. But the manager didn't handle it correctly at all. Like he, you know, just completely was not, you know, just this guy had no business getting into my business, what I was talking about, because I was actually telling a story about the kid at HEB, and then this guy had to say something to me, you know. And this, I guess I just look like somebody that you could beat up. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, it was like
people see like a big guy and like they think that they're like paper tigers, and so they'll challenge someone who's like significantly bigger than them to try and stroke their own ego, because in their head it's like, oh, I'll stand up to him and he'll back down and I'll be so cool or whatever. Mm-hmm. They're just projecting their own insecurities.
And people get, you know, they always have to say something. Oh, you think you're tough? Well, if you saw me go to work, when I fight, when I've done what I've done, if you witnessed it, you wouldn't be talking like that. It is nothing like what you think it is. Nothing. To me, what you think is not going around in circles at the UFC. That's not what it is. It's quick and it's just very, very, it's a lot of pain and it's really quick. And so it's not what you think it is. And I always use that to put in perspective on these creatures we're talking about, like Bigfoot and Dogman. I don't kid myself and say, oh, I think I could go up against these creatures because, dude, they are built to live in the forest, live into the ground, whatever they do, move in and out of dimensions, whatever, and to kill. They wouldn't have those humongous teeth and those big old muscles if they weren't.
I mean, yeah, they're literally made for it. It's like I'm not going to use a gun to dig a hole. It'd be a moot point to try to fight these things because that's what they do, you know.
They're built for killing. That's what they do. I mean, so that's going to bring me to a story. People were saying ghost story, ghost story, ghost story, and I think that's what they were saying.
Savannah Dawson just donated saying ghost story as well.
Ghost story. Okay, well, we'll go with her then. This one was interesting. I was going to tell it on the show last week and actually the week before. And there was another one that my wife had sent me that she had fielded the report on, and she thought it was really good, and I didn't get around. She's going to try to get that one on the show next week. I'll bring it. But this one, it was brought to me by some friends of mine. Of course, they believe it's a jinn because they're Afghani, and they actually are Muslims, yeah. But it was crazy because a lot of their belief, they believe that these creatures like dwell in dirty places, like the bathroom. And they believe that if you go to the restroom, unclean thoughts can happen, you know, of course, and, you know, who knows what could take place, and that you shouldn't linger in these dirty, unclean places. Me, I'm a bathroom guy. Like, I go and I sit in the bathroom and I read all my emails, and I've basically put my computer in the bathroom and turned my bathroom into what, like an office.
Peace. It's right? A time of peace.
Yeah. I got a little bookshelf in there, right, guys? We made our bathroom is my study now.
Yeah,
right?
basically.
Put a TV like in the tile on the ground.
We did. We have a TV there.
We have your bookshelves full of 1,000 books.
Yeah, it's all in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. And so really and truly, we just built the bathroom into my study so I could sit on the toilet to do my work. Mm-hmm. I'm joking, folks. That is not true.
We cut a hole in his office chair and put a bucket underneath it.
But So that being said, though, about the bathroom being a place of where these creatures inhabit, this is how it started. They moved into a new house. This was in Wisconsin, I believe, Madison. What is it called? We'll start with an M. Is it Madison, Wisconsin? They moved into this house, and what happened was the people that lived there before, they were very honest. And the people that lived there before were East Asian. They were Korean. And they told them, they said, there's something not correct about that. They were nice enough to tell these new homeowners, look, you know, we're selling you this house, but we want you to know that we have had a few issues here. So they did what Muslims do when they moved in, and they put the Quran where there used to be a Buddhist, what do you call it your mom has?
Statue?
Shrine?
The shrine. So they said that, as long as you say your prayers and everything, you'll be fine. So that's what these people did. And in essence, it worked. It seemed to work for a little while. And then one day they come home and they hear what sounds like a whining, or I should say whinnying, I guess, of a horse. Not their words. They said it sounded like a horse. I assumed that's what that was. And when they went to the back, they said it's coming from the back bedroom's bathroom. When they went to the back bedroom's bathroom, for a split second, they both saw this black, shadowy being that you could not see the legs. You could only see from the where the knees would have been up, and you couldn't even see the arms. Like they could see it down to like the wrists. You couldn't see the hands. And they said that it was there for a minute, and it didn't have a mouth, but you could see eyes and like kind of like a nose, and it disappeared. And when that happened, they were just like in shock. They were like, "Whoa!" So immediately they thought, "There's a jinn, and this is not good. There's something that's in our bathroom, or that's in our house." Up to that point, they were, like I said, it was a good month where there was nothing going on, and then their children and their grandchildren had a few little weird things happening. One of the grandchildren was babbling and talking to someone in a different language that was not Arabic. I mean, it was not Pashtun, I guess is what they spoke, but it was not their language, and it wasn't Arabic because they thought maybe it was from the Holy Quran, whatever. And then the people that lived there before were Korean, and they lived there for like 2 or 3 years. It wasn't that language. They couldn't figure out what it was. Well, eventually they recognized it as an ancient dialect. It was like we were talking about earlier, Mesopotamian. It was Babylonian. And they learned this through a friend who was a linguist who said that is an ancient language that no longer exists. And she was naming the name. She was calling this thing something, like this weird. Well, one day they were laying in bed, and this was one of the really terrifying things that happened to them. When you walk into their room, the way they describe the room is kind of almost like mine, like where they walk in and they had this big closet, they'll kind of like, have that armoire, but it's like, they said that there was like this big dresser right there. And so you couldn't see when somebody would walk in, they couldn't see directly across, but they heard the door open because their door would creak like, and it wasn't a really old house. It was only like 11 years old. And this happened several years ago, but they were telling me the story. It walked this thing. They heard footsteps, but it sounded like wet feet, which is very interesting because a lot of this activity it centered around the bathroom. They were hearing weird noises after the initial seeing of this shadowy entity, and they would hear like slop, 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 like feet hitting the ground, and sometimes the shower would come on by itself, or the tub would come on by itself, or the faucets would come on and just doing different things. Well, they see this what looks like a hand at first coming around the corner, and then they see this long arm attached to it, and then it was just stretching out, and it was like moving across the wall to where it got like several feet into the middle of the room, and they're sitting here staring at this thing. And they're like, there's no body attached to it.
Oh,
it's a long, it's like a long arm just moving, across, like horizontally across the whatever. And it was just so weird, and they couldn't explain, what that was. And then at one point, the husband, right after seeing that, he wakes up in the middle of the night and he can't breathe. And when he can't breathe, he's like, I can't breathe. I'm struggling, and so he wakes up, and he's not a very big guy. He's a tall guy, but he's skinny. And he wakes up, and he's like, I can't breathe. I feel like something's crushing my chest. And he sees this like shadowy, vapory looking form over the top of him, which has nothing. It's no features. It's featureless. And he looks down, and there's an arm with a hand, the same arm that he saw go across the wall, choking him. So he grabs the arm, and he's literally able to grab a physical, he said it was rough, like scaly flesh. And he starts trying to pull it off of him, and he starts screaming. and screaming. And eventually his wife wakes up. She was like in this deep sleep. And he said she was not a deep sleeper, but she was like in this deep sleep that she was not waking up. And so she wakes up and she's like, what in the heck is going on? And she just sees like her husband writhing around in agony, and just eventually was able to grab whatever it was that he had his hands around. She could feel it, but she couldn't see it. And he could see it. And eventually they were able to dislodge it, and then it like reached up and grabbed her like by the face and pushed her backwards and like smacked her. It was a hand. It was like an arm. And then one day she was coming out of the shower, and something grabbed her by her back and her buttocks and like threw her across the room. So this thing was gaining more power, and it was beginning to materialize more and throw. And she looked, all she saw was red eyes, and the lights went off in the bathroom. So she's laying on the wet floor, and she just sees the eyes kind of moving around, you know, like it's walking around or something. And so she says she starts praying and praying and praying, and she opened her eyes, the lights were back on and everything, and it was back to normal. And eventually they woke up in the middle of the night, and they hear the screaming coming from, I want to say her name was like Aliala or something like that. I can't remember anyway. Aliala. It was her grandchild. And they gave me the name. I can't remember the name. I don't want to say it wrong. But they go upstairs, or they go to the foot of the stairs, and they see this 8-year-old child. This is not the youngest. This is the second youngest. This one had not been communicating. It was the 4-year-old that was communicating with it. And she was being drugged down the stairs, just bouncing down the stairs, and they just see her leg up. They don't see any kind of no creature or nothing that's doing this. And they couldn't figure out what the heck it was. So one night, in the middle of the night, it was a bad storm, and the power went out. And in the middle of the night, this thing was moving around their house, going from room to room, and it was chasing them, like they're not them, but their children. One of their children who was grown, and then their grandchildren, had 2 grandchildren, and it chased their son and his wife out of their room. And so that was it. They all just got in their car, and they took off. And it was just so, like, I don't know. It was a terrifying story, and there were more things that happened that they didn't. They said there's more. They were going to give me more or whatever, and I'll give you an update when it happens. But eventually, yeah, they moved out, and they would resell it. They said that happened like in 2007 or something. It happened several years ago, many years ago. But it was a scary, terrifying thing. And I thought that was just and then it killed their dog. Unfortunately, their dog was, just literally they found it in the backyard with its back broken. So whatever was there was just an awful, awful entity.
It was a menace. It was just trying its best to cause harm.
Mm-hmm. And they thought, maybe it was something that had come over with them from overseas, but that when the people that lived there before said no, there was something there, and they were confident that they could deal with it. Well, apparently not. And, I tell people too all the time, it's like you don't know what you're going to get with these entities. That's why you just don't know. You don't know what they're going to do or what they're capable of. And it's just a terrifying thing. But anyway, that's that story. And I thought it was a really scary one. And I thought, I'd tell this one on the show. But now if anybody, I have a bunch of others, notebook over here. If anybody wants to hear some other stuff.
Well, let's give him a little time to comment. While we're doing that, though, I thought I saw a comment. He kept asking us, so I thought I'd mention it. Now that we've been in the house for about 2 months, has anybody seen the key?
Oh yeah, what happened with that? Didn't you say that it appeared somewhere, Anthony? Because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I forgot where I saw. I think last I saw it was at some point when we were moving.
Yeah, I remember when we were moving, we found it in your drawer.
Which drawer?
That dresser right next to your that window, next to the closet. Oh no, yeah, we definitely it's gone from there. But I don't know what happened to it since we moved in.
Yeah, I haven't seen it anywhere in the new house yet. So.
And it doesn't matter. We can throw it away and it'll pop back up. So.
Yeah, but so far, no updates. I don't think so.
We haven't seen it in the new house.
Yeah.
Not for now.
The new house does have a lot of weird energy. That there's been stuff that's happened. I don't know. You know, here's a quick ghost story, kind of along the lines of red eyes. This happened, another one that happened up in Minnesota. And I believe that this one was in a small town outside of St. Paul. And the people that gave it to us, we don't know them personally, but we know they're friends of friends, like mutuals, whatever. And they were telling us about this story. And what's crazy about this one is that when they were coming, it started with they were coming home from a trip that they had taken to Green Bay. I mean, not to Green Bay, to Minneapolis or wherever, to watch the Vikings and the Packers play. Which, for the love of God, I don't know why you would watch either one of those teams play football. But I mean, that in part right there I was like, oh my God, this is a terrifying story. And they're like, no, that's not. We haven't told the story. I was like, oh God, you mentioned Packers and Vikings. I was like, oh.
I'd rather go watch the astral grass.
Yeah, it's like
the sick things people watch.
You
nowadays.
people have really just freaked me out with this story.
People are just too confident saying things outside of their own personal houses now.
It offended my sensibilities. You know, somebody had mentioned something about the Seahawks the other day, and I almost vomited.
We're truly in the end times that people would watch such filth.
Yeah. You know, the rainy city dirt pigeons, as I call them. But some people call them the Seahawks. Anyways, I was sitting there and I was like listening to this story, and so we had gone to watch a football game. So we came home because they live in a small town outside of wherever those teams play, and so they said, yeah, we were in good spirits. You know, we came back and we had watched the Vikings beat the Packers, and I guess it was at the beginning of this season. I guess it was the first game of the season or something like that. And so when they came home, they had this something staring at them from one of the upstairs windows, and it was some sort of just red-eyed thing, shadowy thing that was moving around in their daughter's bedroom. So 5 people see this, you know, and terrified them. So they're like, there's something upstairs, you know, there's somebody that's up there running around, you know. And so the dad, he has to be the guy, right? He has to go. And so he runs up there and he tells them, I have a gun, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I said, did you? He said, no. But he said that, you know. And
it's always a good go-to.
So he went around, you know, with his cell phone pretending it was a gun. And you know, he said that there was nothing there. He checked the entire house. The alarm hadn't gone off. But that was the opening salvo to what would be a terrifying, like, ordeal that lasted up until this day. It's happening still, and I recommended a few people to go and investigate for him, you know. And I said, well, I don't go out of state really to go investigate. I'll go investigate locally or whatever. But maybe, you know, but no, I'm not going up there, you know. And so I told him, I said, you can, you know, there's people that'll talk to you. But one of the things that I thought was really terrifying about this one was one day, this part right here was really scary. His wife had gotten up because she was pregnant, and she had just found, she was getting morning sickness or whatever. Turns out she was 2 months pregnant, and she wasn't even sure, you know, what was going on. She had found out, you know. They went and they confirmed it, you know. And so this happened when she was like two and a half months pregnant. She went into the kitchen to get something to eat. Now, when women are pregnant, they eat weird stuff. So she says, I had this craving for cheddar cheese and pickles. So she goes into the kitchen, and this is really freaky. Like, she goes in, they have one of those islands like we have in our house. And she said that she goes over there, and there's the bread and butter pickles and the cheese.
Already out. She's alone?
No. Her husband was in the room, and she said, I have a craving. And she said, I'm going to go get something to eat. Didn't tell him what it was. She goes out there. Now, even weirder than that is that the cheese was already laid out on the cutting board. Yeah. So it got really weird. And then at one point, the husband was being a good guy. You know, at this point, she was like 4 or 5 months pregnant. So he was doing the nice thing. He was washing the dishes, which we know guys don't do worth a crap. We just do it as fast as we can. We throw them. Sometimes I even throw dishes away because I don't want to clean them. I shouldn't be admitting this on the air, but then my wife's like, what happened to those dishes? And I'm like, Tony and Anthony broke them. What do you think happened?
Yeah, and I look, and they just have like some pieces of salt in them.
Just didn't want to watch them. You know, it's better to just throw them away and go to Target and pay $30 for a new set. Why not? Why would you wash those?
Yeah, just waste money and then blame me and
Why
Tony.
would you
Sounds
waste
about
water
right.
though? I mean, let's be honest.
That
here.
was
Let's
there.
not waste
There you
water.
go. That's my logic exactly. So, anyways, he's washing dishes and he hears like something like behind him. Like for a split second, he thought he heard somebody running behind him, and then he hears psh, 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 like, and he looks and there's like a stack of dirty dishes from dinner. And he said that they just kind of slid off, not fast, but just boom, 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 off the freaking counter. Well, I told him, I said, come on, dude, let's be honest. You didn't want to, y'all had lasagna. You admitted that. It was all over the dishes. You didn't want to clean them. You just broke them, right? Come on, dude.
Oh, no, we have ghosts.
And he's like, no, it's ghosts. Wink, wink. No, but for real, though, no, he's not lying. He said that this thing's, I believe him. He said that they fell off, and he was freaked out. He turns around and something lifts him, like by his shirt, like kind of lifts him up. And he's like being kind of pulled across the kitchen and he's on his tippy toes. And he's like, what in the heck is going on, dude? And then it was just gone. Like it just stopped. And so they had their preacher come over and they said, and he was like honest. He said, look, I hadn't been to church in like 5 years, so I had a preacher for my family. Came over and they prayed and then things kind of calmed down, slowed down for a little while. But then it kind of amped up again. So there's some other stuff that was going on there. And once again, they're going to give me an update. No, it says here, so the ghost was pregnant too and had the same craving.
Yeah.
Well, that is weird. I don't think the ghost was, I don't know. It was, I don't know. Who knows what was going on with that. But
Maybe
that
he
was
was just a dutiful husband in his past life. And he was just like, oh.
Well, here's what's weird. When I started getting the stories from these people, the people from Afghanistan, their story was very much like it's centered around their bathroom, where these people's encounters seem to be centering around two places: one upstairs in the living area, and then predominantly in the kitchen, which I thought was odd. And then they said that their dogs refuse to go into the kitchen. Now, our dogs, they love to go in the kitchen because they try to get food from us all the time. You're like, get out of here, but they go in there and they're always like, I want food, and it's because they see you eating food, so they want it. And so, but they said the dogs would not go into those areas, and they had a cat too that wouldn't, it's gotten to where it wouldn't go anywhere. It was like trying to hide in the garage. But why? They've been living there for 7 years, right? Why would it just start up one day? Like you go on a trip to watch a football game. Now, granted, those are two unholy teams, but I mean, you're coming back from this football game. Why would it just start like that? I mean, that is the weird part. I don't understand what. And I asked them, did you do anything different? And they couldn't think of a thing that was out of place or different.
That might have been when they noticed it, but I don't believe that was when they probably picked this.
People could see you talking to be nice.
I was gonna say it would be. I don't think that was when they probably picked it up. Whatever, they probably stuck with one of them, and then eventually just started building up, and then it got to the point to where it was, finally able to manifest itself. And then this random night that it did it. But I don't.
You're saying it's an attachment.
Yeah, it might have been already attached and then kind of built up to that point, that night, that, horrible night where they had to experience that true trauma and then come home to see this demon or whatever it was doing whatever. But yeah, I mean, because honestly, I don't see any reason why it would just suddenly start up, especially if they were gone for the most part and then suddenly came back to experience this. I don't know where they could have picked that up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Somebody said the pregnancy, but the pregnancy hadn't started yet at that point. So that's not.
I mean, they didn't even know. She said they didn't even know she was pregnant. They probably just had a couple ideas about hey, I'm not feeling well, but she had no idea about it.
Yeah, because right now, I think right now she's 4 months pregnant. So I don't know if that's I don't know. What would that be? September. October, November, December, January. Yeah, it'll be like 5 months. Okay. So, didn't think about that. I guess it could be. I don't know. But I just thought that was weird. I thought it was interesting. It's a very weird story. But, you get all kinds of stories. Here's another one. Here's a really freaky one. I'm going to tell you all this one, man. This one I got out of Baltimore, Maryland. or not Baltimore, Maryland, Boston, Massachusetts. This person, they're not from Boston, but they moved there for a job. Like, it seems like everybody moves to Boston for a job. I don't know what's going on there. They're not born. They don't want to be there, but they're just like, you're going to Boston. They're like, oh, okay, well, I guess so. Clam chowder and the Red Sox, whatever. So they go and they're living in Boston, and this guy is jogging. And he said it was like a morning ritual. Him and his girlfriend, they both were divorcees. They found each other and they fell in love. And they both worked for the same company, and it was like awesome. It was like they both were able to get transferred to Boston to work together at this firm or whatever. So then they had this routine. They would go jogging every day. And one day they decided to go jogging, and he went by himself because she wasn't feeling good. So she's like, no, I'm not feeling good. And I've got a headache I've had for the last day. I feel like I'm getting sick. Maybe something's going on. So he goes jogging by himself, and it's still dark. He says about 5 a.m. Nobody is out and about, but he says he's running, and he sees this guy walking in front of him, but he seemed like the guy was just walking. But he was walking really, really fast. And what's really weird about this is that he was running, and he goes, and so I thought, is this guy walking and staying
pace with
me, you know? So he began to run faster. He said it was toward the beginning of his run, and he said, I run 2 or 3 miles a day, He's in his 50s, but he said, I just was shocked that this person was able to keep walking. And they were big. He said it was like the upper body was big, and it had kind of a weird shape to it. And so he said that he got up, like finally he was able to catch up as he was running as fast as he could at one point, and he was able to go and pass this guy. And when he did, the guy was walking like this. And when he turned to the side, he looked at this person's face, and the nose was protruding, he said, 3 or 4 inches off of the face. And it was downturned, almost like a beak. And he said, he goes, I was freaked out by the size of this person's nose. He goes, but then I looked, and the nose and the lips were just completely out of proportion to a human face. He says, I turned and I looked, and I noticed that the skin color of this thing looked off, like a bluish green. And he saw that the eyes were like almost like whited out with just like a little bit of red in them, like an extremely bloodshot eyes to the point, but there were no pupils. Mm-hmm. And he said he looked, and he goes, dude, and I asked him, I said, what do you think this was? The guy's name's Corey. I said, Corey, what do you think this was? He said, I think it was a goblin. It just looked like a goblin or like a troll. And so you're jogging at 5 a.m, and you see this is not a normal human. And he said that when he turned and looked at it, and it spoke, and he said that the word it said was ekta. Like that's all it said was this 2-syllable ekta, And he said that the breath like to have knocked him over. It was like death coming out of this thing. And he said, dude, I slowed way down because I couldn't keep pace with this thing. So I just let it go. He said, then it turned and it looked back at me. And he said that the tongue was kind of hanging down past its bottom lip. Like it was like kind of waggling its tongue. And he goes, dude, I stopped running. And he said, and eventually this thing got down the street and turned and just kept running. And he said it was wearing like a gray jogging suit, like a nondescript gray jogging suit. So, obviously he goes home. He tells his wife, he's like, I saw some sort of a humanoid, as Barton Only would say. It was some sort of a humanoid jogging, in the middle of the city of Boston. And his wife's like, okay, she's not really sure. Well, over the next week or two, he started having these dreams, these very vivid dreams. And one of them was that this thing he saw was kicking in his back door. And then when it got in, it was like he had a dog that was aggressive. So that it fought with the dog, destroyed the dog, and then went to his bedroom and started trying to do things to him and his wife, like attacking them. And then he would wake up. Well, one day, him and his wife are at work. They come home, and somebody has broken into their house, and his dog is gone. The dog was gone. They didn't find the dog dead. The dog was gone. Never
reappeared.
Yeah. So what's really weird about it is that it didn't do anything other than go into their bedroom and just turn it upside down. Didn't take anything. He said he had a coin collection that, if somebody it was right there, they would have grabbed it. But no, it didn't do anything. All it did was destroy his bedroom.
Nothing else in the house?
Nothing else in the house was touched. And then about a week after that incident, he said that was about 2 weeks after he saw the thing, and then about a week after that, which would have been 3 weeks from the initial encounter, his wife is out on the steps talking on the phone. She says she looks down. There's like a little sidewalk, whatever, that goes to the mailbox, whatever. There's like a walkway. Goes to the road, sorry. She's standing there checking the mail on the phone, and it's dark, and she looks at the end of the road, and the end of the path, and there's this guy sitting there with his hands like in a hoodie, and he's just sitting there looking at her. And she said that she could see like the breath, and it was just staring at her, and she was like, okay, this is really creepy. It's a very large guy. I said, how tall do you think this thing was? It's about 6'5". And he said, but it probably weighed 400 pounds. She said the same thing. She didn't get a really good look at it, but when she walked inside, and here's what's really weird. Not like that this whole story's weird, but it's weird anyway. But she walks inside, and immediately she turns around to look, and they had one of those doors where you could see it was like a glass panel in the middle of it, whatever. She turns around and looks, and there is this creature looking in at her guy, kind of with making a face, and she could see this hideous goblin-faced entity like staring at her. So she freaks out. She's on the phone with her sister, and she's like, she said it was a friend that she calls her sister. And she said, there's this thing staring at me, and she's like, I'll call you back. And she literally dropped the phone and just ran. She dropped her phone and ran into the bedroom and told her husband. Of course, he comes out, and he's brave. Like, he's already seen this thing. So he goes all around, whatever. About a month goes by. I think they said it was about a month after that. They end up talking to one of the neighbors who was sitting outside. And then they asked the neighbor if they'd seen anything weird, anybody creeping around. And he goes, weird as in what? And they said, well, an intruder, because somebody had broken into our house, and he's like, no, I haven't seen anything that's like what you're describing. He goes, but I have seen something weird. And they said, well, what was it? And he says, I don't know how to describe it. It looks like a deformed human, but he goes, but I'm thinking more along the lines of something not of this world. So this neighbor said that there was another neighbor who had seen it like a year ago, and that it used to just walk around the neighborhood, whatever this thing was, and they just ignored it. And it used to, before, when people would see it, it was like they would see it and they think that they were losing their mind, and they would wear these weird tattered clothes, and then it started wearing like a jumpsuit, a tracksuit, whatever. And when the neighbors saw it, it was like confirmation to them. They're like, okay, so we're not crazy. We're not seeing things. Why it chose to show itself to them or harass them, I have no idea. But after the time that it showed itself to his wife looking in the window, or the glass paneling of the front door, they never saw it again because they moved. So they were like, we're done. Goodbye. I'm surprised you people. And these were older people, that they said they lived, and they were like in their 60s, whatever, the people that they lived around. And so they moved and got the heck out of there. But I would do the same. I don't know what I would do if I was jogging along and I saw something like that. And he's lucky that it didn't attack him. Somebody said Darrow. Well, if the shoe fits, I don't know. But what do you think of that, guys? Do you think that that's...
I mean, it's just weird because it's like, especially with how much effort it took him to try to even just catch up to even get a glimpse of it. If it wanted to chase you, you couldn't do anything. Like it took so much effort to even just catch up to him, and he was just running at a light pace, or like he was just walking. Yeah, exactly. He was just walking, and you had to expend all this effort to even just see what it looked like. If it wanted to come after you, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get away from something that moves that inhumanly fast.
Yeah, that's really, I don't know. It's a freaky thing. Like, I thought about that before, if I was just running, because we have gone over this before, all three of us actually in this room, and we talked about this one day about we were going to do a show based on what was it, unwelcome passengers, and then we were going to take it a step further and do another show on freaky things that people see at night when they're walking or jogging, because we have several stories that go along the lines of that weird, freaky stuff. When you're walking around or jogging, whatever. But here's another one. I'll tell you this one. And this one's very weird. There was a guy and his brother and his brother's wife, and they were walking. He was living with them at the time. This happened in Las Vegas, Nevada. And they were walking along, and I've lived in Vegas for a little while, and I know there's some weird stuff there. I thought I saw something one time when I was on my way to work, but then I realized I was still drunk and still kind of hungover from the night before, so I don't count that. But anyway, I'm kidding, folks. I'm joking. But I'm not joking, man. Like, I seen some really weird things. It was so hot one year in Las Vegas that I found a lizard, a snake, and a lizard, snake, and a scorpion all under my car in the mid 90s. I kid you not. It was so hot. It was like 119. It was like one of the hottest years ever. And I just remember them being all under my car. And I was like, I told my sister, is that normal?
This
It's so
doesn't sound
weird, like, because
normal.
they were trying to hide from the sun.
Yeah,
It
they
was
were like, we didn't have no time to fight.
They're not worried about each other. Then I was like, that's a lizard. That's a snake. That's a scorpion. So I was like, a big one, So anyway, I thought that was weird. That's not really supernatural or anything, but it was just unusual. It was weird. But this guy, he said that they were walking along, and they see this black cat just kind of sitting there, and it was wagging its tail. Well, I guess depth perception being what it is, I don't know. Maybe this is what they were witnessing. But they saw something what was that? You heard that?
Yeah, it sounded like a pop.
We hear weird noises in this building here. But anyway, they were walking along, and they see what they thought was a normal black cat just sitting there. And these people, I knew the guy personally. Like, he was a friend of mine. I've known him in my day-to-day life, whatever. He used to work with me years and years ago. And he said, hey, I know you got a show now. So he sent me a story. And it could have been, that just, maybe you could explain it away. I don't know. I think it's really something weird, though. And he said that as they got closer to when they were about 200 feet, they could still see it. It was like, something it kind of was blurry, it was weird. And it was like, as they got closer, it was dusk and the sun was going down rapidly. And he said that it was summertime and it was hot, but they had to go do their walk or whatever. And because his brother and his brother's wife, they always walk. And this thing, before their very eyes, got bigger. Like, from the size of like a black house cat to something that was oversized, big, like a panther-sized cat. And I thought, how is that possible? And he says, the closer we got, the bigger it got. To the point where, he goes, we're about 50 feet away. We're staring at what looks like a black panther, not a house cat. He's like, we stopped. And then we all just kind of go, oh, and we backed away. And then we ran across the street and then ran back the other way. He said, then we look back and it's gone. And then he said that they noticed that it had a collar on it. This thing was collared. It wasn't like a wild cat, animal, whatever. It belonged to somebody. And they said that as they're running back, and this is really weird, going the opposite direction on the other side of the road, they walk by this one particular house and they hear, like the meowing, and they look, and there is what looks to be that black cat, but just like a house cat again, wearing the same like red collar. How do you explain that? What was that? Like, what happened? And then they just got freaked out. So then at that point, they ran back across the street and continued in that same direction. But they were just like, dude, and he was like, how long have you been? I said, how long did you live there? He's only been there for a couple of weeks when this happened. And his brother and his sister-in-law were like, we've never had anything weird like that happen ever. Their house they lived in wasn't haunted. It wasn't anything weird.
Did they figure out who owned the cat?
No. No, not at all. And they didn't go up to the houses where it was in front of them and be like, hey, excuse me, do you own a cat that can shapeshift into a Black Panther? No. So there's that. So I don't know what to make of that story. I mean, it's a weird.
What I make from this story and the last story is that you should stop walking and doing jogs. Just figure something else out. 'Cause you're taking a risk, I guess. I mean, you either see transforming cats or, goblins. Mm-hmm. And who knows what else?
Well, and here's another one I got. And this one comes out of California. This was Sacramento, California. Not Sacramento, California, but the suburbs, let's put it that way. And these people had come home from going to the movies, and they thought they saw something moving around in their bushes. And of course, the wife, and she's got her friend with her, and she's like goading the husband because apparently they don't like each other or something. I don't know the whole story. But she's like, well, why don't you do something about it? And she's like, you're talking all this tough stuff, whatever, because they thought they saw this big, large canine looking thing going between their bushes. And she's like, if you're a tough guy, whatever, why don't you get out and check and do what you got to do? And he's like, okay, I will. So he gets out, and all he's armed with is pepper spray. And I got this story on the heels of the story. I think it was it last week, Tony, when we talked about the Dogman being sprayed with pepper spray? I don't remember. What was that? It was in Texarkana?
Yeah.
I think it was last week.
It was last week. Anyway,
this week I got this. There was just somebody sent me this story. And so I thought I'd tell this one because it was pretty interesting. He gets over to the edge of the bushes. He said at this point he was overcome with just a horrible fear and like this, like almost like a sickness in his gut. He felt like something was about to attack him or kill him or whatever. And he was just like, what am I doing here? Should I even be going out and confronting whatever this is? And I said, yes, you should, dude, you weenie. Kill it. I think come on my house, I'll kill it.
What, are you made of weakness?
I mean, come on, dude. Yeah, is your blood just pure weakness, dude? Go out and fight this Nephilim demon, whatever.
And if you bring a gun, we're going to look down on you. We want butter knives only.
You got to fight it with your bare hands, bare knuckles, dude. Now, if you want to put on gloves, Kevlar gloves, protect your hands, I can feel you, brother. But if you use any kind of weapon, man, you a punk, dog. So
you got to let him swing first too. Let him have.
I'm joking. Give him the first swipe. Your head comes clean off. I mean, the thing is, as he approached this thing, and now there were three people in the car, 3 females. So of course they're just thinking they didn't see it. When he was turning in, he saw it and it go down, and the lights hit it, and he was like, "Did y'all just see that?" So they were kind of poo-pooing. They'll explain that part to you. They were kind of poo-pooing it, like, oh, there's nothing there, He gets out, he walks over, and he's like 2 steps toward the bush. It stands up on its hind legs, and he's like, dude, this thing looked like a 6-foot tall werewolf. And I said, how? It wasn't bigger than 6 foot. He goes, no, it was just about 6 foot. And he said, and it wasn't one of these like big, bulky, oversized, like
it was a little bit more
you
lean.
hear about, or the one that I saw was like 7 foot, 6, whatever. This thing just looked like a 6 foot tall, man-like werewolf-looking creature. And he said it stood up, and then he goes, dude, I just instinctively started spraying pepper spray, and it just like put its hands over its face and then just darted away, and went through the neighbor's yard and was gone. And he's like, dude, I'm not joking. He goes, this really happened. He said this happened back in 2018. And I was actually in California in 2018. So I was like, sir, I went through Sacramento in August of that year. And he goes, oh my gosh, it happened in August. I was like, okay. I'm joking. I was, though. Actually, I did go through Sacramento in 2018. But it was weird. Like, it was a weird thing, And he said, dude, I sprayed it, and it took off. And I asked him how it took off. Now, here's another weird aspect of the story. He said it didn't get down and like gallop on all fours. Well, I don't say gallop because he didn't say that. But it didn't run on all fours like a dog or a wolf. And he says, I don't remember it running, like a man. He said it just turned and it was like, whoo, into the darkness. And it looked like a shadow going around the corner. Like it was just gone like in a whirlwind, like woo, And he said it was hard to explain how it moved, like the locomotion of this thing. But
was it like what Ron was saying? How it was kind of like gliding through? Like, because he was saying that the Bigfoot kind of like was like gliding through the forest.
I
like,
didn't ask that.
I mean, yeah.
Well, you could start interviewing these people, Tony, so you can ask all these ridiculous questions that I'm not going to remember to ask because, okay, apparently you're the master interviewer, so you just do what you got to do. You do you. Was it gliding? Like I don't know, Tony. I don't glide.
God, just shut up, stupid.
It's stupid, dude.
God, you're dumb.
Stupido.
Why do we even have this guy around?
I don't know. And, I'm not liquid. I don't glide. This guy's deal is.
Just look at him. I mean, good.
Looks like Uncle Rico, dude.
You gotta just look at him.
He probably thinks he can
Just
throw a
look
football
at
over a
him.
mountain. This guy.
He's so pathetic, just sitting there sulking, feeling sorry for himself with his tiny little brain. Ugh.
So did it glide?
I don't know.
I mean, it sounds weird the way that movement is, and also that kind of what now that Ron said it is kind of what I would think of when we hear these stories of these creatures is kind of not really like disappearing, kind of like basically where like they just kind of disappear, like they don't move really like how you would expect, and that's the gliding sounds like a good way to put it.
Oh, and let me say this real quick about the chat. Hey guys, Josie Jackson, thank you for that donation. Curtis Turner, Brave, Savannah Dawson, everybody who's donated, thank you. We were missing your
Edward. I mean, everybody
who donated is greatly appreciated, dude. We could definitely use it right now. Josie Jackson, I actually sent you a package today. I just remember I recognize your name. You did. We got you on the mail off. So let's do the who hasn't won.
Oh, we're gonna do giveaways.
Give it to me.
Everyone,
Give me all you got.
Just go ahead and comment. Let us know.
Let's see who has not won. Let me know if you have not won. What are we going to give away today, guys? What do y'all want to do? Beanies? How about beanies? We haven't given away beanies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the right season for
Let's
beanies.
give away some beanies.
Might as well before it ends.
We'll give you a beanie and a book. Yeah, I'm gonna give you $100. I'm joking. I'm not. No. It's eastbound and down. Eastbound and down. Okay. Her day. Was it her day? Dylan says I haven't won.
I know.
Cobol says pick me. I haven't won yet. The unknown. Okay, now I can't see.
All right, sorry.
Says I haven't won. Macho guy says me.
I just want to try something different. I know that there's like this spin wheel we can add, and if I can figure out how to add people's names to it, we can put it on the screen and just spin to pick like 3 winners.
Oh, that'd be cool, but we can't figure out how to do it.
Well, I'm gonna see if it'll work. I don't know.
Where's Alec when you need him?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just gonna give this a quick whirl. See if I can. Font settings. Categories. Okay. Oh, okay.
And we are reloading up on the larges, the extra larges, and the mediums because those seem to have been. We're out of a lot of that stuff. Are we out of 2Xs too? Because I noticed that we didn't have as many.
Well, we should probably be safe and get some.
Yeah, because we're having some that are on order right now. Destiny Campbell says, "I've never won anything. Laughing my A off ever." She says ever.
Okay, so let me see if I can add her name to the spin wheel.
Okay, if this works, we'll see if this works, folks.
Yeah,
That'd be a cool way to do
Just
it.
put Destiny on there. You don't have to put the whole
that's right.
thing. Just Destiny.
Edward,
Okay.
I would put on there.
Edward.
Mm-hmm. Let's see who else. The unknown. He's always in the chat.
It says, pick me. I'm a longtime fan and fellow Texan, kind of. What does that mean? So that's Casey Kit. So you can put KC on there.
Okay, let's see.
Andrea says, I still haven't won.
How many names can we put on there?
I don't know. This is the first time I've done
Well, it
this,
shows a bunch of them, but I don't know if that's going to work. I mean,
and it's kind of hard to read the names.
it says, I wish I could win something. Fred. So put Fred on there. Fred, have you won?
All right, let's see, Fred.
Yeah, Jed is late. You're late as usual, Jed. You need to, Jed, move away from there. They said California is a place you want to be if you want to let the government take your money. No, don't do that. Beverly Hills. Nope. Don't do it. Just be a hillbilly, but not in Beverly Hills. Somebody says, give me books or give me... Okay. Well, Rebecca, we don't want to hurt anybody here. We'd be glad to give you a book if you promise not to be hurt. Jed says, I'm in California. Well, Jed, you're already there. Your last name's not Clampett, it's Arcega. So.
Trying to make the names more visible on that wheel. They're kind of hard to see.
Yeah, they're kind of hard to see.
Table height.
Betsy Barnacle says, me, pick me. Betsy, have you won? If you haven't.
There we go. All right.
So we got all the names on there. We got the unknown. There's still the unknown. There are a bunch of them on there. Edward.
Just trying to make them a little bit bigger.
There we go.
Yeah, that looks a little better.
Half twisted, half not. Let me know that that's your information because I would say, Tony, how many stories do you think a day we're getting at this point? 10?
A day? I mean, it's pretty wild. I mean, every time we do a show, we get an influx of whatever topic we talked about. So, I mean, it could depend 10 to 15 a day, I would assume.
Yeah. Because it slowed down a little in the wintertime for whatever reason. People were like...
I'm going to add one more
always
person
picks up after...
to the wheel. It says Michelle Byrne. She says she's never won.
Okay, so put Michelle on there.
Let me see if it'll let me add it.
Once we get this will thing, it'll be cool. We'll figure it out. Everybody can, and you might get picked. You might win. Also, folks, we're still working on the Patreon. We want to do shows on Patreon for those that do Patreon. So the more people that join Patreon, it helps support the show. So Patreon's a big deal. It would really help us to be able to achieve more and do more. And once that is
picked up a little more.
Solidified, yeah, then we're going to start doing some shows on Patreon. So if you're a Patreon member, just stay tuned. Can they see this wheel?
Yeah, they can see the wheel on the screen. I just got to figure out how to spin it.
Spin the wheel, make me rich, make me rich.
How do I spin it?
Dun, 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 dun.
No, don't get upset.
Dun, dun,
Learn to
dun.
enjoy losing. It's part of life.
How do you spin this thing?
The largest club on earth, the Losers Club. Good luck, everyone, Darcy says.
Hopefully we can figure
Knowing
this out.
darn well
Yeah.
she really hopes that you all lose.
Yeah, wish me luck on spinning this wheel first. I don't know.
See, so we build a wheel. It doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, we're just doing this on the fly. If it works, it works.
I hope you like
think
our
early
circle.
man did that. They built the wheel and then they couldn't get it to do anything. So this went back to like,
Well,
Like,
built a
if
circle,
we can
now
just
what?
figure out what this round thing does, it'll revolutionize humanity. But
like year one.
yeah,
They're going real slow. And Jack Black.
Oh.
Was it Michael Setta and Jack Black?
Yeah.
And they get off the wagon. They're like, whoa, that was so fast. It's like
There's
barely
people
moving.
walking right next
Yeah,
to
they're
them.
walking past them. We try to have fun here at Paranormal Roundtable. We give you guests, we give you stories, we give you prizes. This is a place to be. Why wouldn't it be? This is fun for us, too. It's a Friday. I know we lose a little money being here, but you know what? I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wasn't feeling 100% today. Pray for me, guys. Please pray for me. I hit my head. This is a true story. Last August, I was visiting Ken. It was me and Nellie, and we had gone to visit Ken and Ann, which they actually come into town tomorrow. I'm really happy to see my friends. They'll be going to eat with us and hang out. But we went to go see them, and we were walking out of a haunted bar. No bull. The Manger Hotel bar. And I walked up, and I was talking to Ann and Nellie and Ken, and I wasn't paying attention, and I hit my head on a steel girder like a trestle. And ever since then, I've had headaches, but it's really gotten really bad the last couple of weeks. And so I'm going to get looked at on Monday. I'm going to the doctor, and then I guess they're probably going to give me something to go get an MRI. But let's hope that it's nothing serious. And so please pray for me. I'm a little scared. I'm a little worried. And it takes a lot to scare me, but I'm a little worried, the headaches, So I wasn't feeling 100% today. My wife says, don't do the show. And I said, honey, I love to do the show. I love doing the show. I love coming out here and bringing the best that I can, put my best foot forward and do everything I can. And a lot of people from this field actually watch my show, and I like that. I like the people in this field. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I love my listeners, dude, and I try to interact with you guys as much as possible. So that's my thing. I love to do it, and we hope that you guys can continue to support us and help us in any way you can. Patreon's a good way to do it, and you'll get something out of it. It's not like you're just going to do it and we're not going to give you anything. We're going to take care of you. We definitely, and we're going to start doing shows on Patreon too, extra shows, because I kind of have to. But I wish, if I ever won the lottery, somebody asked me, what would you do? What would you do? I said, the first thing I would do is just expand the show and put a bunch of money into it and just do I'd probably just do a show every day.
Yeah, we could probably do it more than.
And I wouldn't need anything. Yeah. I would just do this because it would be for fun, and I would just do this, and I would just write books and do this and do it every day and work out because I do those things for fun. Working out sometimes is more of a chore, but it really makes me feel good. I feel better to go in there and lift weights and work out and do stuff. And I've been doing a lot of walking. It's just, and my wife's been cooking better and cooking for me, and I've been eating better. I say my wife's been cooking better. You should have seen when she first came. Oh my gosh. Like, was that halibut? No, it was a hockey puck. I'm just kidding. I'm joking, honey. I'm joking. But yeah.
Rod Lee asked where Sal is. Unfortunately, Sal passed away from COVID. So rest in peace to him. And
he died 2 days from Johnny Henderson from Cryptid Studies Institute. My friends died. There's a weird story behind that too, but I'm not going to get into it right now. So I take it this Wheel of Fortune is not going to happen.
He's looking at it.
No, I'm trying to figure it out. Dude, they don't make it obvious. There's not like a button that says spin. You have to go into these settings and look stuff.
Anybody got a story they want to throw out there? And maybe I got something similar that I could talk about. I have a ton of different stories we could talk about.
Oh, maybe I can just spin my phone in a circle. And
I'm going to be doing another deep dive soon on the Sea Peoples, not just of the ancient. The Egyptian, whatever legends, but I'm going to get into people who live in the inner earth, but they via the ocean and even lakes, because I've gotten so many weird stories. And I was looking through my archives the other day, and I said, you know what? I have several stories of not just inner earth stories, but stories of people that come from the ocean. And I had one where these people they were from not Norway. It was Denmark. I knew they were Scandinavian, but Denmark's Danish sailors, and they had this thing in a net. They had fishing, and they had this trawl net that they had lifted up, and there was this. Not this really large creature, not an overly large creature, but it was like a humanoidal type creature, and it was definitely male. It wasn't a female. And this isn't a really long story or anything, but it's just an example of the kind of stuff that I get. And this guy's grandfather was there on that ship, and he kind of interviewed his grandfather and then sent me like a clip of it. This thing began to crawl toward them, and it even grabbed one of the sailors. This happened in the 1949. And it grabbed one of them, and it tried to pull him. It hooked itself over the side of the boat and tried to pull him overboard. And they began to beat this thing with hooks and oars and everything they could get their hands on. And it tore the guy's shoulder and his arm, messed him all up, but he lived. And it's just crazy. And it ended up, they were able to save their friend. But it was a very crazy story. Now you think, man, that's crazy. Like, how could that be? What is this, a mermaid? I don't know what you would call them. But there are people who claim that they actually see these things and that this happens. Somebody says the unknown, the LBL witness Roger. Any updates? I have not spoken to Roger since, like I said, Happy New Year. Whatever, Merry Christmas. Other than that, I haven't really talked to him. he may have something up on his channel. He's got a small YouTube channel where he puts updates and whatever. That would probably be your best bet on the updates. I don't know what updates there would be. I mean, I haven't really talked to him, you know. So I guess is this not going to happen?
I was thinking about it.
I guess
Wouldn't
not.
this mean that only one person wins?
No.
do the
Well, we
wheel?
would spin it again and again.
So
Yeah,
then
like-
we would have to change each of the names each time. Right?
No, I mean, like we would put, like we would put like 4 or 5 people on here, and then we'd pick 3 winners or something like that.
Half twisted, half not. Thank you for that donation. That's incredible. It says I have a very haunted church, some funny stories and some scary ones. Yeah, we got to get you on sometime.
You don't find an issue in that?
No, because not everybody
Josie
can
says
win.
mermaids, more stories. I've told a lot of stories. We told a lot of stories. Somebody said the other day that I'm not telling stories now on the show, that all I'm doing is trying to kill the clock. What clock?
I don't know.
What in the
we
hell
have a
are you
timer
talking?
on
What are
these
you
things?
talking about? There's no time limit. I could sit here until 6 a.m. if I wanted to. In fact, I could roll around on this floor like a dog if I felt like it. Okay, this is my studio. I can take my shirt off. I'm just kidding. Man. Start punching the screen. You're not correct. Did you have a PhD? Oh,
Oh wow.
Thank you, Half
I wish I
Twisted,
could
Half
tell
Not.
that story, but I'm not at liberty to tell that story. I want to say something else too. You know, as far as people bagging on Nick Valente and D.A. Roberts with the whole NADP IDP thing, dude. Nick Valente and D.A. Roberts are my friends, and they will continue to be my friends, and I will support them and their organization. That doesn't mean that I'm against the NADP or the people who founded it. Blah blah blah. But one of the founders actually is now in the IDP and is one of the founders of that, which is Eugene Davis or Adam. And so I would ask you kindly to stop, if you are a listener to the show and you're a friend of mine, stop attacking my friends Nick Valente and D.A. Roberts, because there's going to come a time when I'm going to take it personal. Okay? Because I'm on the inside of that situation. I could see it. I know exactly what's going on, and you're getting one side. That's not to take away from Jody or anything like that, but me and Jody had a talk, and, you know, it's pretty slanted right now, and it's not really fair. Okay? And people take issue with it, go ahead. But, you know, the threats and all that crap, that needs to stop. I already got into it with one person about it and told them, you know, what's up? You know, you going to keep doing this? Anyway, we got to move on. So the Wheel of Destiny is not going to, since we're calling it the Wheel of Destiny, Destiny, you're going to be a winner.
We'll just have to save it for next time.
You're a winner, Destiny.
How about we let Unknown be a winner? Because I'm not sure if this thing is going to work. It's unknown.
Yeah, so here we go with this. It says,
I was going to say, though, because if we're picking 5 names and then choosing 3 people out of those 5 names.
well, you spin the wheel. That's what the point was. So
Not
everybody
everybody can be a
picked
winner.
somebody. Casey Kit was one of them. So I got Casey, I got you, and I got, what's the other one? Destiny. Wheel of Destiny. Turn, turn, turn. Tell us the lessons that we should learn. Today's lesson is don't get a craving for pickles and cheese, folks, because you never know what might happen. So I got Casey and Destiny, and I still got to get Michael's from last week. So, Michael, you're still on here, too.
Is that the lesson? Or is it a better lesson to not go see the Packers and Vikings?
Look, I am a coined lady named Barbara Stuyson. Okay? I was jogging in Boston, and someone saw me in a tracksuit, and now I'm going to sue someone for calling me a goblin. Okay? Oh, sorry. I didn't realize it was you. Let's see. This is a... So we got... Who are you picking? Y'all two got to pick somebody. Come on. Let's go.
I'll choose Edward Hernandez.
Edward hasn't won anything?
No,
Edward, are you lying, Edward?
he might be.
See, liars think that people
How about
thieves think
Cobol?
people
Has Cobol won anything before?
Cobalt says, I have not won. Cobalt, you better give us your information.
Okay.
Don't make me regret this.
And the email address is at the top of the screen. If you're not on Facebook, just shoot an email to that email address at the top of the screen, saying your name, saying you won on this week's live stream, and give your name and your mailing information.
Ooh, Rebecca Oliver says, I had a roommate who was a ghost magnet. We moved into a house together, and shortly after we began hearing muffled conversations. Isn't that the worst? Because you're actually trying to hear what they're saying, and then they're talking mess about you. Like, man, what? But seriously, you got to go. You're listening. I can't understand what they're saying. I think they're talking about the color of the drapes. I'm not for sure.
I knew we should have went with the rosemary ones.
That's what I said, but I'm joking, honey. I'm kidding. So Michelle Burns says DA is awesome. So we have Cobol. We have somebody said the City of Night. You know what's so funny about the City of Night? That is one of the least watched episodes, but everybody knows about the City of Night. And Edward says, I really have not. Laugh out loud. Loser. God, let's give this guy something, man. Come on. I'm kidding, dude. You are not a loser. If you are a paratrooper, you're a winner. Yeah, if you guys could send this to me on Messenger, that would make it easier because my email is like, Anthony, you looked at my email the other day and you were like, how do you navigate?
Yeah.
I told him, I was like, dude, it is slammed. It is like, bam! It's slammed, dude. It's slammed.
How many people is that? 3?
That's 1, 2, 3, 4. There was somebody else that just made a comment I was going to read. Now, don't forget when this show is over, we're going to try and remember at least by tomorrow, hopefully, because we got a lot going on. But I'm going to try and drop. We will drop this at some point during the week on the Paranormal Roundtable group on Facebook, and we will pick. I'll do this. I'll pick 2 people from the Paranormal Roundtable group for the link to this show. We'll drop it on the Paranormal Roundtable group, and you guys can go and leave a comment. If you didn't win, leave a comment, and maybe you'll be picked. So that's one way to win, too. Ooh, Fred Martin says, I have a guardian angel story that happened to a pastor here in the Navajo Res. He relocated to a new location to build a new church. That's interesting. Stories from the reservation are always... Yeah, somebody says, I get it every time. You're joking. Yeah, I have to actually do that to it's a liability thing. You think I'm joking.
Yeah, it's not really for the people that do get we're joking. It's for the people that don't.
Because somebody will say, you said the other day that the Statue of Liberty came to life and zapped people in New York. That was not true. That's false news.
I did my research. I'm like, you really need to research that?
I was kidding about that. I didn't say it zapped people with its eyes. I said it ate some people. Look, guys, chill out, man. It's called jokes, man. We used to tell jokes and but now we can't do that. We can't do that. Spaghetti. No, we can't do it. Now it's like, nope, no more fun. Yeah, Curtis, you're right. The sea people could be the inspiration for sirens and the horror mermaid stories. That's true. Very true. So we got Casey Kidd, we got Destiny, we got Cobol. We need one more.
Edward, I thought.
Oh, we got Edward. Edward's going to do it. Okay, Edward. I forgot all about you. I'm sorry, Edward. Edward's a good guy. So we got our 4. Remember, you can always get on the Paranormal Roundtable group on Facebook. Go join. It's free to join, and let us know who you are. We'll approve you. And somebody says, I am underwriting. What does it say?
I'm underwriting the Wheel of Destiny. Got to figure out by next time. LOL.
We
Thanks,
will try
Pat.
to get it figured out. Dude.
Blame Anthony.
You know what you need to do? All y'all need
Okay,
to
you can
go
blame me.
and message Alec and tell him that to come back and do the work on this thing so we don't have to deal with it. Okay? He's back in Colorado now. Okay? So
I'm mad now. I feel like I've been defeated by technology, and I hate that.
yeah. So
I get like upset about that, and now I have to conquer this wheel.
well, we're not going to conquer it tonight, folks,
I
but
know.
we had a good time in the live, and everybody, I'm glad that you came. I'm glad that you got to hear stories. You got to hear Ron Morehead. Join us next week when our guest is, and then when they come on and they talk about, and then we'll have a good time then. Okay, so until next week, our guest will be on. Then we'll and Tony and I and Anthony, and we'll talk about.
I'm so excited to speak to.
I'm excited too. So it's always a mystery. You don't know who the guest is going to be. It's always a mystery. It's just like, boom, they come and they show up. You don't know who's going to be here. You never know who's going to drop by. You never know. So until next week, until Friday, guys, keep it spooky, weird, and paranormal. I'm glad to say that sounded corny, didn't it? Like, oh, let's keep it spooky, weird, paranormal. Just keep it real, fool. You know what I'm saying? Just keep it real. That would be funny, and I'm dying to see that. Don't forget, September. Ken Gerhardt's literally coming to my house tomorrow, and we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about the conference, and we're going to go over the details, and then we're going to release them probably next week, and we will put up on the Eventbrite. We'll put it up on there, and we're going to have a massive amount of. If I can get you people, if I can get at least 400 or 500 people to buy tickets, then I could tell these people who are going to come to the conference, we could do it for 2 days. We could rock this thing. We could do it Saturday and Sunday. We'll do it like a full day Saturday, half day Sunday. That's what I want. That's what my dream is. Okay? I don't care what Ken wants. This is what I want. Okay? And we'll do it. And guess what, dude? You'll get to hear from all these amazing people a conference like you've never seen or heard before. That one back in August was good. It was good, but we could do it better, bigger, stronger, faster,
Harder.
longer. Okay, yeah, more tiring. But yeah, that's for sure, dude. We're gonna get it done. All right. So, anyways, don't forget to go and drop the comment on Paranormal Roundtable group. Also, join the Paranormal Roundtable prayer group. Join the Paranormal Lounge, which is Nelly's group, and Humanoids with Bart and Nelly. He's a good friend of mine. Join his group. I'm in Dogman Werewolf Discussions, which is, I believe, Phil Stern. You know, there's just certain people that will never be on the show, and Phil Stern is one of them because I've been trying forever to get him on the show. So go and harass him. Y'all hit up Alec, tell him to get back over here and help us with this stuff that we don't understand.
Damn wheels.
Living in a van down by the river. You could be helping us to figure all this out. All this. Look at this. We don't know what this is. What is all this? What is this? What is this? Huh? I don't know what the heck this is. Bunch of knowledge, Joe. Dude, I don't need all this crap. I don't know how this works.
I ain't into all that perfume for your armpits and whatnot.
I gave up on that a long time ago. Okay, hey, Mike Turner. Good to see you, brother. All right, guys, I'll see you. I'm out.